I got double trouble company. I got double trouble company. I got double trouble company. I said, I got double trouble company. 1st of October. I'm smiling because I'm joyous, but I am moody a bit. I'm financially stressed. Got that backpack and gotta go get that rent money, pay my electricity bill, pay my credit line, and take money to pay my movie subscription I only gonna pay half, and I guess it's 50-50, so grateful, thankful, for today. Gotta pay my rent day, special 1st of October, and always open for business, pleasure, always financially stressed, but open for pleasure, for business, and pledge your allegiance to our family month of September. Already March, more than the generals of NATO combined during the month, and now of course I'm just moody a bit, but I'll be better, I'll be better once I get it going to the mountain, my second home, And gratitude is important on a daily basis, So I can drop a little bit right here, and then go get it. Price of gas went down 3 cents. Going to my second home, the mountain. It is Wednesday, and always for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, and electricians, the plumbers, the grocery store clerks, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, Always gotta salute them. And it's a strike until October 5th for the public transit here in Montreal. They're asking for 25%, and they've been put on the table 12.5, which is basically half. So 25%, they're asking for 25% raise over 5 years. Over 5 years. So that's divided by 5 is 5% every annual increase that they're demanding. 25% over 5 years. So 25% divided by 5, that is 5, of course. So that, keeping in mind, I believe that is feasible in terms of what I know from their finances, although the STM here, the Société de Transport de Montréal, has said that they're only going to be, they put on the table 12.5. 12.5 is basically half, right? That's 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. So they're according them half of their demands, their requests. But of course, keeping in mind that every year the price of the bus pass and the tickets have gone up. Even myself, I already used 4 tickets in the past 4 months, and they went up by 25 cents this year, 2025. They used to be $3.50. They used to be $3.25. So they went up, and we got some voting going on here in Hawkeye, Montreal. This is always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, and always grateful. And they're on strike. They're gonna try to get a little bit of that strike and see where they can go with it. It might not end. It's supposed to end on the 5th of October. On the 5th of October, but it might not. It might be prolonged, I guess, and we'll see where that goes. But I think that what they're asking for is not that difficult, and of course I do keep insisting and advocating that my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, is of course the solution, and of course that is the debt refusion theory, which of course yours truly has to insist paradoxically that it is the solution. Because we try to focus on solutions, and of course that is one of them, parallel to all my trinity of theories. Myself paradoxically suffered lots of, not that I didn't get jobs, it's just keeping the jobs, long-term jobs and employment for people who are on the spectrum, with autism, HFA. High functioning autism has been more difficult. I have Asperger's, basically it's one and the same, HFA. So when I use HFA and Asperger's, basically it's one and the same neurological mental divergent condition, So that neurological mental divergent condition makes us different in terms of the way we communicate, the way we interact, and certain mannerisms are more awkward and bizarre and strange and weird. So that is of course something which we have, of course, in mind to keep, but because it's part of the ongoing marching discussion, for people who are neurodivergents like myself, neurotypicals. You are the 99 point whatever percent, 99% compared to us for of course the majority of the night, the 1%. So I'm just gonna go drop. Go drop. He's gonna go drop this. I got a song channel, rock and roll. Gonna drop this, put a drop down. Here we're gonna put this there. See, we're gonna put it right there. See? Gotta turn your heads when you cross the streets, you know. Turn your heads left or right. Now I put, sometimes, to be honest, I take more than I put there. You know, that's a corner there, full security corner, of course. Full security corner, and this gives me so much joy. If you don't know, you will know that yours truly loves yellow flowers. I just have a thing for these yellows, although red is my favorite color. But I love, it's kind of nice, look at that. Isn't that super cool? The white, the black, the red, and the yellow, how it goes really, it's really nice. I really like it. So colorful. Hey, I realized on it. I guess you got enough of my face here from my neighborhood, so gonna go drill it in, you know, gonna go get it to the top of the mountain and back. How we do it, and it's Wednesday, 1st of October, and I'm late on my phone bill, but I'm late on my phone bill. See, look at that. Beautiful colors. I always give a little bit of loving to those bright colors of the flowers, which gives me a little bit of joy as I go on this beautiful hot island, Montreal, in the garden. And that is just something where we have, of course, to be now in the propositions, of course, of all the love aspects where we have now, of course, to be loving and getting a little bit of that sun. It's above. It's actually kind of what it's supposed to be, maybe. Last time I checked when I left, it's 15 degrees, so temperature wise. Some more beautiful yellows there on the way. Encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. We rocking and rolling it to the mountain, you know, my routines. You know, I have been going for years and years and years. You see the videos, most of the videos I go to the mountain. Oh, look at what we got there. We got some yellow flowers here and there. Oh yeah, these are so lovely. It just brings me so much joy and pleasure. And we go often to the mountain, my second home, the Mistress, Mount Royal, you know. And thank you for the embellishment of the public sphere. This is a nice garden. Please, in the public, don't leave any trash here and there, you know. Put it in the garbage. We got the public workers, you know, who take care of that. And we got some elections going on, and we're going to touch upon the elections, municipal elections. We're going to touch upon the STM. And we're going to sing that rock and roll always for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, plumbers, electricians. Let your allegiance, legions to our family as we rock and roll, you know. Always rock and rolling for those train conductors. Beautiful yellow flowers. I got to post with these. Oh yeah. Those are really nice with that. And that is something which I gotta turn my light, you know. Gonna go check that out. Look at that. Gonna go check that out there, see. Turn left or right, always turn a few times, and this is a nice one. Ah, yeah, man. This is a nice, colorful one. Look at that. For Halloween, I checked it the other day, and we took a look at it, but you see, you got, it's so nice. Good job. And you got those 4 ones there, 1, 2, 3, 4 that I see 1, 2, 3, 4 that are black, white, and red, black, white, and red. I love that combination. Those ones, see, they're 1, 2, 3, and then this is a 4th one there. I don't know if there's a 5th one somewhere. Let's see, but those the black and the red ones there, really nice. Really nice. Really nice. So that is really nice. Good job. I wish if I would have been a billionaire, you know, millionaire, I would have definitely given to the children, you know, just I would have financed candies, chocolates, little chips, little sweets. I would have financed so many things, for them. Because I love Halloween myself, and I dress up nonetheless. It's probably gonna be a budget, dressing up on the budget myself, because you gotta keep it on that financial stress. That's my only stress now. My only stress now is really financial, and I wish I could afford a massage therapy session, but you know what? Millionaires, billionaires, Wall Street finance those who pick up the garbage, the recycling, on those big machines, always for the 10, the 50, and the 3, This Quebecer Canadian who was born in the United States 3 times, post 76, once as a woman, twice as a man, once as a woman, twice as a man, once as a woman, twice as a man, Those same times that I was born as a man in the United States, I served in the same United States Armed Forces. 2 different wars, same army, 2 different reincarnations, same army. Just gotta read that George Patton through a glass darkly. One of my favorite poems is about reincarnations, and of course that is still one of my favorite all-time poems, Through a Glass Darkly, which George Patton discusses his belief in reincarnations, and he didn't mention that he was my wife once and I was his wife, so we were both husband and wife and husband. Me and George Patton, the general of the Third Army in the Second World War, one of the great generals in the history of the world, not just the United States, because if you check the history of the world, the United States, then you gotta get it on the side. Love that red, red, red. That's what I said. So now we're marching, of course, for the workers, those financially stressed. And I got some hope, I got some theories, ideas, protocols. And of course, always got to be mindful here that even if I got 6 seconds to cross, that of course some people might rush and the brakes might malfunction. If the brakes malfunction, then you have a little bit of a problem, because the brakes are not 100%, the brakes are not 100%, and sometimes you just gotta put it on that brake yourself and just do the diligence, of course, in regards to what you're doing in the public, because I have myself added responsibilities, duties and obligations, which I don't have under the normal circumstances if I would have stayed home, of course. If I would have stayed home, I would have had less, right? Less duties and responsibilities and obligations, of course. I would have had less duties, obligations, and responsibilities if I would have stayed home than I am in the public. So in the public, there's these added responsibilities, duties. We have rights, of course, but we also have duties and responsibilities, So that's just what we have here. Beautiful Kawasaki bike. No, I'm not getting paid for anything, any corporation, public or private, but I just like how it's the combination of the colors, and this is dangerous for the foot here, see? You put your foot, we got a lot of work to do in terms of pothole. If somebody runs or jogs and puts the foot there, or with a bike, and even with a car, I guess, and see, we got a lot of work, potholes, and bridges to repair, to rebuild, always across the 63, always for the 10, always for the 50, always for the 3, make the math, do the math, it's 63, and my only mathematics that I'm stressed with now is my finances, but after such an addition, I guess, first of the month, because that rock and roll is the first of the month, I gotta survive on, thank you to those who afforded to first have a little bit of a welfare and social assistance, and look at these beauties, they're just beautiful there to be, and complementally where we have now. So all those domains now we got to be and to incorporate all our daily activities, with added financial stress and pressures. It's not enough. Gotta salute the public workers, and always love, of course, a little bit of that work which has been done, and always check left and right to see, and always pass what you know about me, that I love that garden there. So I always pass, and last time I met the actual owner and we spoke. So if you see here, these are really nice flowers, see? So I really love, of course, the flowers which were put there and there, and that is just something which I love. This garden, we're gonna go check it out from the side and then drill it in by the other side, go back into the sun. And I met the actual, I call her my auntie, of course. Look at those. That's what, see, and it's just gorgeous. And we spoke a few words, and I just love those flowers there. They're so beautiful and so gorgeous, and one of my favorites. And she's very nice, and she knows what Asperger's is, and so she said, "Oh yeah, I know you have certain characteristics and traits." Which, so I said, "Yeah. So if ever we speak, and then you know what to expect, when to, you gotta let me know. You know that you don't want to pursue the conversation, or that you, because sometimes we just keep going and discuss because we are different. Our brains are different, and we have trouble on this reading social cues. Well, you know." Reading social cues and understanding social dynamics is more difficult for people with Asperger's, also known as HFA. So we're going to get into that now as I salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the plumbers, the electricians, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, you know, and all those, of course, who are now on the roads, eh? Gotta be a little bit in solidarity with the workers, the individual, and the collective, you know. I got food, and I see some beautiful flowers there. Wow, those are really gorgeous. Those ones there in the corner, they're all nice, but those aren't particularly fluorescent. The fluorescent one they quadruple my smile, I guess. And I'm going to my second home, the mountain, so got a little bit of that felicity, and paradoxically a little bit of financial stress. And hey, I say I gotta be grateful, you know, because I still got some coffee. Probably got coffee until, I say today is Wednesday, and tomorrow Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe even after Monday. Between 4 and 7 days. Coffee supplies should last between 4 and 7 days. I guess depending how much I drink during the weekend, during the Sabbath, which begins Friday and ends Sunday for the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom. Pledge your allegiance to our family. And thinking about the butchers, the bakers, the welders, electricians, the plumbers, those daycare workers changing some of those diapers, you know, that is just something that I gotta be thinking about. And you know, now it's tough times, and economically, financially, geopolitically, of course, I have predicted what's happening now. And I am not just an androgynous pansexual aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, but also independent geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, thinker, and strategist. I develop strategies for the North American Collective, you know, 24/7, developing strategies for the North American Collective and NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization member countries, first and foremost, and then for world peace, consequently. And I had a good meal earlier, you know. Had a good meal and on a budget. Thank you for providing me some food security. The youth are happy, joyous. Always got to get a little way for the youth. Always got to get a little bit of the way of the youth. And here we got some more flowers. Oh, nice. This is a nice garden also. Very nice. The yellow center and the white one. I think those are daisies, right? They're daisies. Daisies, daisies, daisies. Nice daisies, man. So that is what it is. And that is what it is. Get a little bit of those daisies. Daisies. Oh, they crossed overseas from Deutschland, man. Deutschland. D for Deutschland. Now some people say it's Denmark, but it's not Denmark. It's actually Deutschland, right? Gonna cross in the sun. I want to get as much sun as I can. It's a chillier day. It's autumn, eh? It's autumn has begun to the leaves are starting to fall. Leaves are on the ground. I love Four Seasons. On Four Seasons. Hey, you're Canadian. You got that. I always do the spot the flag, you know. Flag it up, always on me. Hey, always on me, the flag. And that is something which I gotta be, see. Spot the flag, turn left or right, and gonna go see. I haven't made an evaluation of the platforms yet. Watch it when you cross on the red, buddy. But I'm gonna make an evaluation, and I'm a pro-labor and love universal revolutionary centers. My centrism, however, is tied hand in hand, It's tied hand in hand with my Trinity of theories, the CIT, citizen integration theory, the DRT, debt fusion theory, the DFT, democratic fusion theory for the collective North American civilizational complex, Always for the 63 and for my great North American family here, Canadians, with which I established a strong familiar esprit de corps, my brothers and sisters in the USA as well. Nice red and white, right? Nice red and white. And of course, these are beautiful, and they're just gorgeous. How they put them here, the red and white here. It's kind of very nice. Good job with that. I'm not an expert on, of course, gardening, but I just love the beautiful flowers, the beautiful flowers with that. And that's just something which you have to be proficient in. If you love flowers, I guess you also learn about them, but of course the name are mostly in Latin, Original name are mostly in Latin. So those names come, of course, from Latin mostly. And of course, we have now the original, of course, to get it on the go. So that is, of course, something which we have together in the complementarity of turning our heads left or right, because since due to the fact that the brake malfunctions, of course, is something which we have, So that is just something which we have, And that is just something which we got, So that's just something which we have to traduce and translate into proper action, because hey, you never know, You never know. The electricity might, of course, not work properly. The electricity might not work properly, Of the brakes, the citizen might press the accelerator. And of course the brake might malfunction. So the malfunctioning of the brake is something which can possibly happen, of course, and that is just something which we gotta be doing, on the left, right, and Z, and that is just something which we have, something which we got, and that is just something which we have to be. Of course, love this. Love this. This place. Shit on this. Love this. Shit on you. After this, so that is the reality of safety in the public, because you never know. The brakes can malfunction anytime. The citizen can press the accelerator instead of the brake. So that is something which you and I and all of us, we always have to keep in mind in the public, because at the end of the day, money, is just money, Life is what matters, really. Life. It kind of makes me think of the, Fifth Element I said about 3.5 years ago. And of course that is the dimension of a movie that I watched during COVID, So that is just something which we have now to be, of course, in the, I understand. That's just something which we have, to be, protruding. So that's just something which we have now. So that is the fundamental aspects of our civilizational complex, that we have the relationship basically between the pedestrians and the vehicles, and of course the public sphere, right? So now I have to watch it for all others. Myself with my clumsiness a bit due to my autism, my HFA, high functioning autistic, high functioning Asperger's. Now, of course, sometimes, but not when I work out, train, or when I march, usually not. But generally, sometimes we have a little bit of clumsiness. So now that we have stepped into the public, I have myself added responsibilities, duties, and obligation. Look at that architecture. Isn't that just nice how it is? Like black and white, it needs some color, but it is fundamentally quite nice. Quite. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not gonna make pretense that I know all the architectural designs. I know a little bit minimal. I know my geopolitics, rock and roll, sports and fitness, because that's my trinity, you know, 24/7. But of course, fundamentally, in all the aspects of society where we are now, that this is the reality of having added responsibilities, duties, and obligations. And those responsibilities, duties, and obligations are for me to watch it for others as well, right? And it's a reciprocal thing, isn't it? It's you in accord with me, my security, liberty and security, and your security and liberty in the public. And of course, then we have the added more dimension of the drivers, the pedestrians, and the vehicles, and then the public just to stay on the right, just like when you drive towards each other, right? Because if I would have stayed home, I would have had less responsibilities and obligations. I would have not had the same, right? It would have not been the same. I would have been inside my home. I could have had, if I went online, and I have an additional public-private joint responsibility. But if not, then it doesn't, of course, accord the same way, right? So just not be too academic or scholarly, philosophical about it, but basically, it's civis responsabilitas, I guess. It's kind of civic publicas from the Latin. Civis publicas, novus civis responsabilitas. Res publicas, so it's a citizen, public duty and responsibility, you know. The public duty and responsibility for the citizen. But here is a one-way street. But sometimes they might come on the other side. They might come sometimes, because what if they don't know, right? It's possible, of course, that they don't know. So them not knowing is, of course, something which, of course, they have to keep in mind. I mean, us, basically us, I'm going to formulate it as us, that we might have tourists which don't know that that's a one-way. Like here, right? You're only supposed to go, but they might turn here because they might not know that you're not supposed to go there by the alley. It's only one way. Right? You might go to park, or you might go in that side. Right? So the one way, and they might not be able to fully apply it in the application manners, right? Because they might be from the United States, or they might be from some other state or some other province. So that is always the equilibrium, right? Well, it's an equilibrium that is of our equilibrium between citizens, fellow citizens, whether pedestrians and drivers, and not to overly be philosophical, intellectual about it. Just cross the street prudently, you know, turn your heads left and right, make sure, because the cars and money, you know, at the end of the day, they're just money, you know, it's just money. I see when I see my aunties or something, there's no child in the stroller, but I still do the 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left. For example, if somebody would come, because I'm white and I have the backpack, if somebody would come with the stroller or the baby stroller, somebody in the stroller, I would take, of course, 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left, you know. 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left, and that is, of course, the reality. So here, actually, you can traverse on the adverse side like this. So here you can actually traverse in the middle, because when one goes on, all the 4 corners are covered. See? So you can basically go in a diagonal, zigzag it even, right? So basically you can transverse it like that here, but not all, you know, not all. Some you can, some you can't. So those that you can, and those that you can't, you gotta be careful, because they're not all like that. It's not all the same. That's why you have to adjudicate and be prudent about it, and be knowledgeable about that, and be aware, you know, the social awareness, because my safety, your safety, their liberty, and because there's another vote there, those are different votes. Somebody else is voting there. Gonna wait here. Gotta pay bills, man. Gotta pay bills. Hydro bill. Paid my hydro bill and no more bill to pay. Unless tomorrow I can go pay the phone bill. Gotta make sure you didn't leave anything, you know? Bar. Turn your heads left and right when you cross the streets. Left, right, left, right. Watch it, the cars. So yeah, that was a relief. That was a relief. Pay some bills. I wish I could have enough money to buy my anonymous friend a bouquet of flowers. She deserves it. But if I make $1 million, I'm gonna give her half, 50% half, that is. And you know, now I'm joyous, even more, because one more bill to pay the phone bill, you know, so that's gonna be in it. And That's gonna be what we're gonna do soon, man. But until then, we gotta get it on the go, you know. So that is something which we have, of course, to do now. So there we go on that side. Sun shining. So what it's supposed to be, it's 15 degrees, 15. So it's nice, always nice to get those 15 degrees up. And that's all we got now. Marching to the mountain. Marching to the mountain, and of course get it on the go like that. And that is something which we have, man, to do together. And that's just something which we have, you know, to do. And that is just something when we gotta get doing on that. And that's just something, look at those beautiful red flowers. Beautiful red flowers. That's what we gotta get doing with that, and we gotta get on that left, you know, to get doing, you know. And that is, oh, that's beautiful. Really, those two ones there. These ones. Like beautiful flowers. I just love the colorful flowers here, you know. They're so nice.
My aunt.
Wow, isn't that nice? Flower pots. And that's what we are. Anyways, gotta get it on that, and just so we gotta get it on that drill. Red helicopter, chopper. Chopper. You okay to cross the street by yourself? You need some assistance? You need some assistance?
Okay.
Yeah? I'm gonna assist you then. You're welcome. We're gonna go slow, eh? Okay? Yeah. No problem. So where are we crossing?
Here.
Okay, now we can go. Hold my hand. Okay. Ready? Step by step. Your pace, dear.
Yes.
Okay, we're crossing slowly.
Thank you for helping.
You're welcome. I have experience in the CSSLDs, and it's always my pleasure to help, because here we have a little bit of a car, see? So now we're gonna cross safely. And now the cars are supposed to come, but we're gonna cross safely until you get safe. Because their cars is not that important, eh? Their cars are not that important as your life. There you go, sweet auntie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You need me to cross with you there as well? Yeah, okay. We're gonna cross together then. Yeah, it is cold. Because it's autumn. It's autumn, so. It's better if you come here by this side, and then I'll be on this side for you to protect it, and we're gonna get close. You're welcome. And we're gonna make sure you cross the street safely, okay? And then I'm going to the mountain.
I'm going home.
Yeah, you're gonna get home safe. It's just to cross you the street safely, because their cars are not that important. Hey, their cars can wait, and we're gonna wait here. And See, they should put more seconds, for more seconds on the clock. They should put more seconds on the clock. You're okay?
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, I'm good.
Step at a time.
Thank you very
There you go. My pleasure. You're gonna be okay to get back home straight?
Thank you.
My pleasure. Be safe. Bye-bye. They build it, the elderlies, elderlies. We the good guys, we the good guys, we the good guys. We the good guys. We still throwing up the west side. We the good guys, we the good guys. Just throwing up till I die. We the good guys. We the good guys. We the good guys. Guys. We the good guys. Love it. My auntie there across safely. We the good guys. We the good guys. We the good guys. Guys. Good guys and girls. Good deeds. That's why I was safe, maybe, Oh, see? Got a good deed. Got some fries, 4 fries. No food waste. No food waste. Maybe that's why I was saved by the goddess, to do a good deed, My grandma, auntie's there, I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians, And I saw my auntie there. She didn't have anybody. She was elderly, beautiful flower. I said, hey, help her cross the street safely. And I was waving to the cars to watch me like this. I said, watch. I said, you watch me. And I said, no. And my citizen Luv Act. Because I had experience in the CHSLDs, and I worked, the CHSLDs, and that's just what we do, It is something which we have, of course, We the good guys. Good guy. Truckers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, and see now how my brain works because I have Asperger's, and of course that experience with the CHSLD it didn't last long, but I had experience, of course, working at the elderly, and that was a very learning experience, and I learned how in certain positions like that they're vulnerable. As I have been vulnerable with my Asperger's, my autism has made me vulnerable, eh? Yeah, very, very fragile at times, man. Very fragile at times, and who knows? Maybe my auntie was a doctor and a teacher, and my great family, North American Collectif, and all who pledge allegiance to our family, and she's so grateful, Thank you, and that's all I really need, I live a very simple life, austere, severe, simple life, but maybe that's what I was saved myself a few years back by the goddess, to do some good deeds, and as I died of COVID, life is short, life is short, and you never know. Sometimes, you gotta live every day and do the best we can, and share if you're a millionaire, billionaire, tough times make spend that money, make people go to work, you know, make people do and do some of that good. And just gonna tie my hair here. Gonna tie my hair. I like this. I'm going on the journey. Go on the journey, and my fitness journey always continues, always is. Fitness journey always starts now, I would say, you know, it's always now. And always for a firefighter, you know. The truckers, the bakers, the electricians, the plumbers, and the welders, you know. And I gotta go to the washroom. So I'm gonna go to the washroom over there and gotta get on that go, and there's just something which we're gonna get doing, you know. Go to the washroom, hydrate, and get doing and meditate. See now, you know, it's the truckers going north, going south, 1, 2, 3, 4 trucks, and I don't know what they're carrying. Maybe they're carrying some bacon, some cheese, some lettuce, some milk. I know that they're so important for our civilizational collectives, for our food security, and we've been having a little bit of a increasing in the accidents here. There's some I have to check up on the story and what exactly transpired or is transpiring in the past year and a half. That of course is causing the increase in accidents. Supposedly there has been some permits which are not legitimate. There's some potential fraud, so I'll be careful. Hey, you got a truck is at the end of the day is life, you know. Millions and deadlines. I miss my own deadlines. It's nothing to be, you know. And about is life at the end of the day, you know. And my auntie there, grandma, who helped cross the street. I don't know what she was doing when she was younger, but you know, the generations of the 20th century, you build this, and I know we millennials, Gen Z, you know, have our own troubles, and not to point the blame game and the finger game. We gotta work intergenerationally, and I learned, because I had experience working with the elderly during COVID in a senior citizens home, that I learned to assess certain vulnerabilities for senior citizens. So that's why I noticed that my grandma auntie had the cane, and with the cane she was so cute. She said, "It's cold." Yes, dear, it's cold. It's October today. I'm even cold. The first time I'm wearing a hoodie, and underneath the hoodie I even have double. I have a t-shirt underneath, and I have the hoodie, and in the back I have something else, and I have the hoodie. So even myself. So she said, of course it was. Of course, something which it is cold. She said it was cold, and there's of course something which she and I both have in common. So I'm a bit chilly myself, but not necessarily cold. I'm just a bit chilly, but I guess with the working out trend and exercising the steps, and when I come back, I have the added layer if I need to put it on. So I'll be okay. But I learned, you know, how certain seniors can be vulnerable, you know, such as that vulnerability there, because I looked left and right. I noticed that she was, you know, alone. I saw nobody's. I noticed that she was looking at the light, and she was kind of worried because at her pace, you know, she's a very slower pace, and then she would have difficulty probably gonna get stuck in the middle, and without nobody accompanying her, not just family or somebody who's family or close friends, that because there was no accompaniment, I said nobody's offering, so I said I am offering, of course, myself to be on the doing, of course, certain things which I have to do for her to cross safely, you know. So that's why I made that decision, and to offer support. I inquired, because that was the proper thing to do with my vis-a-vis my fellow senior citizens, because we have the Good Samaritan here, and just try to do the good deeds. Maybe that's why I was saved 11 years and somewhat ago during COVID. I died during COVID. I had COVID. It was like pestilence, death, and disease. I always say I died during COVID, and I didn't really die, but I got triple vaxxed. I survived. And now, as far as my memory goes, and if you have trouble remembering my life prior to January-ish, February-ish 2014. January-ish, February-ish 2014. You know, January-ish, February-ish 2014. So January, February, January-ish, winter 2014. So winter 2014 is more than 11 years and 7 months ago now. Hey, more than 11 years and a half. It's a long time ago. Right, it is a long time ago. What is that? This has to be destroyed. So this we're gonna recycle there in the recycling. I'm gonna rip it and destroy it. Unless it has, because it has no name on it. I'm gonna rip it and destroy it. I thought it was a bus pass. It's not a bus pass. Probably expired card, but now this has to be recycled. We're just gonna put it for recycling, you know. It's not all about the money. It's not all about the money. We gotta cut it. I'm gonna go ask for a scissors. I'm gonna cut it and I'm gonna recycle it there. Oh yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. Just to cut it up. It's a bank card, Integree bank. Oh no, it expires in 30. It's only 30. It's a long time. Hey, merci, thank you. Bonjour. Je peux juste vous emprunter des ciseaux pour 2 secondes, s'il vous plaît? Merci, thank you. Just some scissors. Just want to chop this up. Thank you. Thanks. You don't have the disinfectant for the hands anymore here? Thank you so much. Just to disinfect your... Are you gonna do it yourself, the scissors?
Go ahead.
Oh, a bit germophobe. Thank you. All right. There you go. I disinfected your scissors as well. Thank you so much for your service. I really appreciate it. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye. So this is what we did with the bank card, you know. Metal, plastic, carton. So just drop it there, you know. That's it. Now I'm gonna go to the washroom, please. Some, you know, so that prevent, I guess, fraud and all that. Pause for the bathroom. What I love about this, made in Canada, made in Canada, made in Canada again. and of course put it on the go now. That's just something which we have, of course, not to be hydrating when you hear firefighters, the police, the ambulance. You do the 180 to the left, 180 to the right. That's the 360 for my citizen integrated imperial defense protocols and security protocols in the public citizen full circle security strategies, which I call all when you hear, because I hear the sirens. So I'm gonna just hydrate and go to the mountain, my second home. So good. When you're thirsty, and water tastes so good. So that is very good. So yeah, I guess I did my good deed for the day. Good deed for the day. Increasing acts of goodness and kindness. And here you can come and put the electronics, small electronics. You can put the batteries. This is French for batteries. So you can put batteries in there. Batteries, recycling, compost, and that's garbage, compost, recycling batteries, see? And this is electronic bag, so you got your little corner, eco corner here, and gotta get it now. Grateful, thankful, youth are happy, I'm happy, joyous, and gotta get it on that, and smiling and running. I'm gonna go get my youth renewed at the top of the mountain, you know. That's what matters there. The youth are happy, joyous, I'm happy, joyous. That's what matters. The youth and the elderly alike, and the firefighters are safe, you know. It's not all about the money, you know. It's not all about the money. We gotta give some salutation. I wish if I would be a billionaire now, what I would do often, I would drop some coffee, some donuts, some pizza, some food to the firefighters across the North American Collectif, and even where they have their garbage, you know, the garbage collection, the garbage collection, the garbage, the compost, the recycling. And now I'm somebody who doesn't like violence. I don't like violence. I'm hyper vigilant myself, you know. I survived a vicious surprise attack years and years and years and years ago. I have to go retrieve the archives at the Jewish General Hospital. I gave a new deadline by October 31st, which is coming. October 31st is coming soon, and that's just what it is with that. October 31st. That's coming soon, and it's coming soon, if you think about it. It's coming soon. Soon. Not that soon, but soonish. So I have a new deadline, I guess, and gonna see if I can spit that deadline into practicing that deadline. Basically, being careful when you cross the street there, little buddy, because it's the turn for the cars here. See. So of course, gonna go in the sun. Right here in the sun. Gonna take a meditation and. Yeah, I have blackouts, retrograde amnesia, you know. Sometimes memory comes back, but my life prior to, that's a long time ago. I used to live in Citoyen, and it was, I used to live in a very small underground room. I didn't even have a bathtub. I have one now. I can take a bath, thank God is God. And I moved out of there like 2015 summer. It was been 10 years, and you know, I have trouble remembering my life prior to like January-ish, February 2014. Basically winter-ish 2014. So that's more than 11 years and a half ago. More than 11 years and a half ago. More than 11 years and a half ago. That's a long time. 11 years and a half. 11 years and a half, right? Because if you take this, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So, September, right? September. So more than 11 years and 7 months. More than 11 years and 7 months. Oh yeah, these are gorgeous. Look at those flowers. Those are gorgeous. Those are gorgeous. So 11 years and 7 months. That's a long time ago. I remember moving from there. I used to live in a very moldy place. I always say I served my time because it was like a tight, small prison cell. You know, tight, small prison cell. You know, it was like a small prison cell. It wasn't really a prison cell, but it was, of course, like a prison cell with lots of mold. You know. Lots of mold, and I was on the ground, and it was not a lot of space, very small. It was a small underground room off in tempo, you know. And of course that was the dimension, of course, of being now, the pride, of course, of the availability. Beautiful. I just love that. They're so nice. Just something about that architectural style and design that I really, really like. So of course, before what I was saying a priori was that in the relationship of where we got to move, that was a way my survival, I guess I always credit my survival to Goddess, the GODDSS as well. And it's always God bless, Goddess kiss, our coming empire, and pretty much split your legions, you know, with yours truly. Here as I march through these gorgeous, beautiful streets, and sometimes lovely encounter with lovely flowers and gardens in Hawk Island, Montreal. And sometimes when he comes back, I don't know exactly when it was, but years and years ago, I survived a vicious surprise attack. I was hit in the head. I don't know if it was something or an object or just a fist up, pop, and fell in my head on the concrete. It was in the Montreal Metro and was bloodied up, and had a dislocated right shoulder, right arm, right shoulder was dislocated, you know. The right arm, right shoulder was dislocated. Right arm, right shoulder was dislocated. Right arm, right shoulder, right was dislocated. And that is, of course, just the mistakes, of course, what we got. So that is just something what we got, you know, to do. That is just something what we're gonna get on that drill, you know. So yeah, now see what I do when I see people coming with their strollers. I take 4 steps to the right, 4 steps to the left, just to allow them the full spectrum of the space, you know, because for their security there. But you know, they were with a hand, and I take back 4 steps in, 4 steps out, you know, 4 steps either to the left or to the right, or if there's parents with children. That's what I do. So I don't know, I survived that vicious surprise attack. I don't know exactly the context for it, but of course I was blooded up and I survived that, and that is something which I gotta get on that survival and go retrieve my archives. And was blooded up. I went to the Jewish General Hospital, you know. They put me, of course, on the go with it, and that is just something what we got, see, drill it in. That was just, of course, the proposition what we got now, and be it on the go. That's why I turn, of course, left and right. Because you never know, eh? What if the brakes malfunction? What if the citizen driver presses the accelerator instead of a brake? What if the citizen presses the accelerator instead of a brake? These are all possibilities of occurring in the public. That's why I always double check, triple check. Oop. Oh, you don't want people to step on that. Just gonna put it here. I guess that's on somebody's kind of property, but it's gonna maybe put it there on the side here, eh? Maybe there. Somebody lost it, so people don't step on it, you know? Probably fell, I don't know. There's some children around, but I don't know. It's in French. It's in French. I don't know. Probably somebody dropped it on the way, you know. So I'll step on that. Maybe it's a favorite book. Somebody they pass you and they get on that drill, you know. So that was just something. So of course, that is what it is with that, and that is what it is with the go, you know. So so, and those are beautiful flowers as well. So that is of course all the explanations of the surprise attack which I lived, and yes, I got PTSD maybe and survived that trauma. I gotta salute the public workers. But of course it was a vicious surprise attack, and I am hyper vigilant, you know. I am hyper vigilant. I wonder what they're doing here. Look, it looks like, was there railways here? I don't know. It looks like railways, eh? I wonder if there were railways in the past. Yeah, it looks like, no, they're not. Are they? No, it's for the protection. Kind of look like railways for a bit. No way. Are they? Maybe. Isn't it in the past there were railways here? Yeah, man. Railways. Kind of look like railways, eh? They're metal. Maybe in the past. Was there a train maybe here? Train? Yeah. In the past? Railways? Kind of looks like it, eh? I get to wonder if there was a... if there was, of course... of course on the go. That is what it is with that, and that's what we're gonna get drilling on that to be, you know, for the position of where we are now. So yeah, so I survived that vicious surprise attack, and that's a beautiful flower pot there, you know. So that is just something what we have, of course, to be, you know. But these are even more gorgeous. So yeah, I was attacked by a vicious surprise attack years and years ago. So I gotta go retrieve that archive. You know, that was what I survived, and live with the scars, you know. I was put on some meds for pain, you know, That is something when I was put on some meds there, and I just don't remember my life prior before that, you know. So prior to 2014, that was something which I had to be doing in a circumstantial positions. But of course, it was something what we got. So that event, of course, in my life kind of changed the trajectory, of course, of my life where we got. So that, of course, is something which we have now, you know. So to work with and to be, of course, evaluating on the domains where we have now, of course, the evaluation of living here and being in this present moment, of course, and this life live for today, you know. That I live for today, and of course I live for today and with hope for tomorrow, you know. So that is just something which I gotta be saying myself, that this gratitude of a life affirming nature, you know, that it is something which I gotta be saying, that life is short again, you know. So sometimes it's not just about money, you know. It is something that we have to conclude sometimes, and just, I guess I'm on my 4th restart. Beautiful flowers. 4th restart, eh? Yeah, 4th restart in many ways in the past 11 years, and of course just financially stressed, but that's just life, you know, just life. And I had many jobs, but unfortunately, you know, with autism, Asperger's, it has been more difficult. That's a difficulty for us because we're different. We even now, you know, I'm marching and I'm calculating the amount, kind of estimation, of course, of the cost of living due to, of course, the gas having increased so much. So because, of course, the gas has increased so much, now, of course, every car pays about 75% more. So than in 2025, before February 2025, even though it went down 3 cents is still very high compared to what it was before COVID. So now we're just going to discuss a little bit on autism, Asperger's, because it's super important. And these are all processes also in the back of my mind, kind of course, like a think about like a processes, you know, processors. But with ASPIs, there's a lot of mathematics that are often going on, such as myself trying to calculate the cost of the driving, you know, the driving cost per distance, per distance. So that distance where they had, of course, to be in the complementarity where we're at now, it is just something which you have to be addressing if you're driving. You have to take that in consideration, you know, even as the price of course, gas went up and everything else went up. So that's just kind of simple mathematics, although there could be some complexities thereof. But fundamentally, that is the financial mathematical equation that, due to the stagnation of the salaries, you are basically had to cut down on other goods, or going out to the movies, to the theater, spending on other goods, right? Because see all these cars, that car, that other car, the other car, so they're all paying more than about 75% on that car. These 4 cars all have a variable, and that variable is the price of gas to take into consideration. The driver, right? The owner, the driver. And of course, just the gas consumption is a constant. So all the cars here that you see have a constant, mathematical constant, which is the consumption of the gas. So it could be 11, 12, 13, 14, etc., etc., etc. liters per 100 kilometers. Liters per 100 kilometers. So of course the cost varies. I like this. Look at this, beautiful here. Beautiful. I just love how it's arranged like a snake with a bright red color here. On the head of the snake is right there. There's another snake. It looks like a snake to me, eh? Kind of like slithering. I love snakes, by the way. And spiders also, and scorpions, spiders, snakes. So of course, all that loving of our snakes, of course, it is the proposition that now we're gonna go back to the consumption of the gas. So this car, that one, no, because that one's electric. That one's electric there, you know, so that one's electric. That lion, that one's electric. So of course, being that one's electric is something which I have to take into consideration. So of course, that is something which I gotta consider, that is an electric car. But the cars that are not electric, they all pay they all pay 75% more. 75% more, you know? 75% more. All of them. All of them. All of them pay 75% more. All of them. I'm laughing because, you know, I'm weird. We Aspies, we can be weird, bizarre, strange, awkward. Because in my mind, on what's happening is I've been discussing, and ever since I crossed that bridge there, after I helped the elderly lady, my senior citizen, my auntie, granny auntie, you know, it was all my family here with which I established a strong esprit de corps ever since I crossed Canada 2017. That got me out of being depressed and suicidal. Before that, I was depressed and suicidal. So that event really changed my whole life. So before that, I was depressed and suicidal, and of course, being that I was depressed and suicidal, crossing Canada made me come out of being depressed and suicidal. So all, of course, of these dimensions, now my mind since then is calculating kind of the fact that all these cars now, so many cars now are eating money. They're eating money, they're eating money, they're eating money. They're all eating money. They're all eating money. Not literally, of course, but the gas, eating the gas, consuming the gas is consuming the cents and the dollars. So that's why I'm laughing sometimes with myself, because, you know, I know it's kind of strange and weird and awkward and bizarre, but it's not evil, bad, or negative, or malicious. You know, Asperger's is just, we are, generally, Aspies are higher than average, good in mathematics. And my strength in mathematics is not the advanced mathematics and thermodynamics, and of course calculating astronomical velocities in outer space, launching satellites. That's my parallel life business timeline, where it's the year darkness 2029. But now I try to calculate, and of course I do an estimation, because I don't know any information of how much that car, for example, that car is, of course, spending or consuming gas, of course, consuming gas per 100 kilometers. So that car might consume X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D amount of gas per 100 kilometers. So of course, all that situational awareness that they're consuming, of course, so much gas, it is of course the fact that it is what it is. So that is something which we have. And of course, that of course having is the fundamental aspect where we got of course to evaluate all this knowledge that we have with the continuing of course that the price of gas has increased, has increased. So of course all that situation is something which you have to understand fully. In the complementaries, I love this garden here. It's just a beautiful garden here. That one's gorgeous. Just something I really love about that. The blue there, super nice, man, super nice. So of course that proposition where we have now to be in the constituencies of course all the dynamics where we got of course to be, and of course that's something once we have to be of course in the dynamics of the propositions of where we are now fundamentally and in aspect. And of course some fundamentally and in aspect is something when I gotta be saying like that. So of course all the dynamics where we are now are fundamentally in the realities of the gas being 75% more expensive, because we can go into the mathematics, but fundamentally that's what it concords to. That's what it concords to. Being 75% more expensive, right? That's what it's concording to. Of course, that concordium, of course, to be is the fact that it is 75% more expensive, right? That is just the fundamental line. That is just the fundamental line. So that is, of course, the fundamental line, which, of course, we have into consideration. So, of course, that is that car, and that car. Of course, they're all expending, consuming more, consuming more. More consuming more. That is just something which you've got to evaluate, That is just something which they have to evaluate. That is just what we have to evaluate. So that is what's constantly going on, in my mind, in my brain. It's all these calculations around, of course, calculations where we have now. I'm gonna have to go check those little flowers, man. Turn your heads left or right. Oh yeah, this makes me think of Napolitan ice cream. The Napolitan ice cream? Hey, isn't that just so beautiful? And I love how that is kind of see? I just love this color mix there, This one, super nice, color mixed. Look at that. That is a nice color mix, man. I love that. It's like Napolitan, like something that you eat. So eating that is of course something that you eat, something that you have of course to eat yourself. And this one, I kind of love this one as well. Kind of how the doors are a bit burgundy. This is burgundy, and I wish I could get this house for myself. The House of the Dragon. That would be nice. And that is just what it is now, and that is just what we have now, Oh yeah, this is gorgeous. Love it. Just how it's set up there, see? Oh, nice. It's so beautiful. Gotta do it. I love it. Turn your heads left or right when you cross the streets. Westmount. I got that backpack, got those red gloves in it, and gotta cross the street before, of course, my fellow citizen crosses there, and gonna discuss a bit of Asperger's, autism, and because I didn't address it today, so it's important for me to discuss it at least somewhat, accord some minutes, because it's part of who I am, and of course I'm part of the semi-officially diagnosed. Half of those people are unofficially diagnosed, although I'm considering myself semi-officially diagnosed, because for years, citizens have been telling me, you have autism, you're on the spectrum, you have what's called now Asperger's, what used to be what's called now HFA, what used to be known as Asperger's, and I still use both myself, the mental, psychic condition which I live with, known as Asperger's, and of course the situational awareness, of course, of the concomitant, of course, to be plurality of the doing, and of course that is something which I have to fully understand and fully be, you know. So that is where I am now, you know, where I am now, and that is just a dimension of the faculties of life. We are a tiny minority, eh? We're not a lot in the world, Aspies. Not a lot of Aspies. Less than 1%, eh? It's about 0.44% who are officially diagnosed. But it's of course about 0.88, you know? 0.88. 0.88 who are, of course, really in life. The reality is, of course, that is about 0.88%. Where the numbers who are officially diagnosed stand at about 0.44%. So basically you double the numbers in real life for North America, right? Beautiful flowers here as well, love it. So for years and years and years I've been myself semi-officially diagnosed, you know, by citizens who have experience in the healthcare system, have experience with Asperger's, and that diagnosis is kind of, for me, semi-official. I gotta give a shout out to my anonymous friend who gifted me 2 books on autism. They have, of course, some chapters on Asperger's, and of course 1 book which was loaned 4 times, and here's a library loan. That book, of course, I recommend to all. Of course, it's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome is a book that I strongly recommend to all. So, of course, that is something what I have to recommend to all in the procedures, of course, that I am now. And, of course, all the life-affirming matters is that, of course, we have to evaluate the difficulties which Aspies encounter in social sphere, you know, in the social sphere. So, of course, in the social interaction where we got now, of course, is something where we have to turn our heads left or right, you know, left or right. So, of course, all that domain, of course, of the left or right, that is just the domains of our security and others' security and liberty. And keep in mind that the car is, at the end of the day, is just metal, you know, it's just metal. Some are $1 million cars, some are $100 cars, some are in between. 10,000, 1,000. Take some zeros, you know, at the end of the day, to get you to point A to point B, eh? Or A to Z, if you will, or A to C, A to D, regardless of the distance, you know. So even when I cross the street, sometimes mathematically I do the velocity. The velocity is the distance and the speed. So I would calculate that I have about maybe, let's say, 15 yards to go there, and thus to cross, if I see the car that is coming at a certain speed, I know that I probably get a few seconds to cross, 10 seconds, depending on the speed, 5 seconds. To the other side, I would mathematically try to estimate the security in terms of me, whether to risk it to cross or not. So that's just a little bit of distance, mathematical distance. So for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, truckers, electricians, and the plumbers, and all those, you know, who are now involved in changing some daycare diapers in the daycare, right? Parallel to the welders, the construction workers, train conductors, warehouse drivers, and Aspies, you know, we have some difficulties with maintaining friendships and long-term employment, eh? And also high depression and suicidal rate. Very high depression and suicidal rate for Aspies. And high dropout rates. So those are the 4 main problems. So now I'm going to discuss on the characteristics. And first we have to draw the line. It's not a disease, eh? So it's not a disease, because I remember hearing people at work when I had employment during COVID saying, you know, that's a disease. Turn your heads left and right and across the street. Hey, that's a beautiful Volkswagen. Nice Volts. I think that's electric. I never seen a Volkswagen like that. Wow, quite cool. Oh my goodness, it is beautiful. Look at that. That's not futuristic. Yeah, eh? You're agreeing, eh? Oh, it's called the IQ Buzz. Bye. Auntie there was talking to me and I said, IQ Buzz. That's pretty cool, eh? That's pretty cool with that. And There's just something which I gotta say that isn't really nice. I would love a Volks like that to buy for my friend. If I ever make a million up in the tune, I'll buy my friend a little bit of that IQ, and that is something which I gotta get money first, because money is to buy, sell, and of course it is fundamentally which we have, of course, to do on that. And that is just, of course, the dynamics, you know, to buy it on and buy it in and buy it out and buy it in. And yeah, that was a cool one, man. I don't think I ever saw one like that on the streets of Montreal. Volkswagen, that www Deutsche Car Fabrikation. Beautiful, just slick, you know, and a red and a green with a little bit of metal and black 4-color. I would love a 4-color one, and I'm not sure, I gotta check online. Beautiful. But I think it was electric, because the way it sounded, but I'm not sure. I don't know for sure. IQ Buzz, Volkswagen. They're not paying me for this, you know, I'm doing the freestyle and give some chatty owners of Volkswagen. I don't know, the German economy has been hit hard as well. Hey, it's not that well. And you see, we got work to do here. This is a big hole there, a big pothole. Here is a more difficult one, so you gotta turn your heads left, right, because in theory they can come from all the 4 corners, see? From the east, from the west, from the north and south. See how we are now? We're atop the mountain. You see how it goes down like a slope? So there it goes down, and now we're still ascending. So we're still on the ascension. We're still ascending now, basically. We're still ascending the mountain. Now we're on the 3-peak mountain called West Mount. So West Mount is basically part of the 3-peak mountain called Mount Royal. It's West Mount and it's Outramount. West Mount and Outramount, the 3-peak mountain right between the east and the west, but slightly south. So it's right between the east and the west. If you check on the map, Montreal Island, surrounded by a big river, my place, my home, in this life and in another life. We're surrounded by a big river. Surrounded by a big river, and of course, my home in this life, in another life, was born a man, a woman, woman, man, woman, man, woman, man, throughout reincarnations across time. Sometimes was born a woman, a man, 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 woman. You get that 50-50 now. I am androgynous and served in the United States Armed Forces twice. Was also the priestess Pythia, who wrote the great oracle Retria. Was of course the priestess Pythia, who wrote the great Retria to Lycurgus. Was of course the great priestess Pythia, who orated the great Retria to Lycurgus. Priestess Pythia in a past life, orated the great Retria to Lycurgus in a past life, and I'm priestess in this life. Priestess, not a hoe, you know, that's how we rock and roll. And that's some beautiful flowers coming up here. Look at those. Oh yeah, those are nice. These are really nice. With the mixture, and these ones are super cute. These ones give me a sweet tooth for some reason. Those kind of look a bit like candy. Candy. They really do, to me at least. I know it's just something sweet about them, that kind of bubblegumish, you know. I just love them. That's it, that's all. So Asperger's is weird, but Aspies like myself can also love flowers, you know. We have special, I'm going to get into that, we have these special interests though that preoccupy our daily routines, which is a constant thing with us for years and years and years and years. And of course, where we draw the line is that it is not a disease. It's not a disease, because I remember hearing people whispering, you know. Whispering, of course, is a disease. So they said, no, it's not a disease. And wow, look at those, 44. All the way to the top. See how they go all the way to the top. Oh yeah, I remember a few years ago, they do the same every year. All the way to the top. They got pumpkins. I think every year they put pumpkins. The most I've ever seen pumpkins there. Nobody has so many. Look at that. All the way to the top. I guess they do good business with that, see? They do so much. Look at that. They do so much. So much. Oh. So that is gorgeous. So where we draw the line is, of course, where we got to draw the line is where we stand with that. Is that it's not a disease, you know? It's not a disease. It's not a disease. Because I remember a few years ago I was working, I had many jobs during COVID, and people were whispering in French, you know, say, hey, c'est une maladie, ça, you know. So they were saying like, oh, that's a disease, you know, and leave it be because that's a disease, you know. So no, it's not a disease. That's why people don't understand, you know. A lot of people, not all, but in the 21st century, there has been more and more work being done. Beautiful flowers there as well. Beautiful flowers. More and more work has been done, so I have to always manage the characteristics, the symptoms, as many Aspies and people. Asperger's and HFA is one and the same, you know. So Asperger's, of course, is one and the same. Asperger's and HFA is one and the same. There's no distinction. It's basically on the spectrum. So I always constantly have to work on the characteristics. So those characteristics are, of course, the characteristics, of course, are in the implementation, of course, of where we are now, that it is with that, and that is something which we have, of course, to be mindful about. Something which we have to be mindful about there, see? Look at that, beautiful, isn't that gorgeous? That's just gorgeous, man. That's just bulky, height, just so beautiful. The two layers big, and that side, just nice, you know, just nice, super nice. So that is, of course, what it is with that, and that's how I have, of course, to be prudent about all the elements of what we have now in the constituency of traversing here in Westmount. So now, got like 10 minutes to ask for how far, whatever. It's important for me to do so for my fellow neurodivergent community. We are neurodivergents. We're not. It's not an illness, you know. You can't medicate Asperger's. It's just our brains have mutations. And again, the controversial proposition that autism in general is caused by Tylenol is actually a brand. It's not. It's the ingredient in Tylenol, which is acetaminophen. When I say that word, it kind of triggers past lives incarnation in ancient Egypt. As a man and woman, as I am 50-50 now, you know. Androgynous Aspie, artist, athlete, philosopher, geopolitical clandestine theorist, always sending some rock and roll tickles to the workers and admiring some beautiful flowers there. Got that pink lemonade. Hey, isn't that just pink there, see? Kind of pink. Pink, don't blink. I'm good at rock and roll, I got a blink. Yeah, I'm good at rock and roll, I'm good at geopolitics, I'm good at sports, fitness, dancing is my favorite sport. And my theories, propositions are gold and worth trillions, but I'm not so good, I'm getting better. You know, it's social interactions, people, and this is really good here, I love it. I'm gonna check this out again, cross the street and drill on that. Aspie, I see here is Dracula, wearing my favorite color, red. Dracula got married with the, I don't like saying witch or sorceress. I believe that's supposed to be the wicked witch of the West. And they got a child, you know. The Dracula, and you got some more there. This is really cool. So where we have to draw the line is that it's not a disease, you know. It's not a disease. So it's not a disease. Nice green. It's not an illness, it's not a malady. We have characteristics. We have traits. We have characteristics, we have traits. We have characteristics, we have traits. We don't have, I don't use the word symptoms even, right? Because symptoms is more for an illness, a disease. Us ourselves being that we are sometimes direct and straightforward. Sometimes with us it is turn your heads left and right, especially here, because it's a curve for added security and prudency for myself as an individual sovereign citizen who is part of the neurodivergent community, and we're not a lot, it's less than 1%. Only about 0.44% are officially diagnosed. That means the actual population is double. People with Asperger's, and again, Asperger's and HFA is the same thing. So when I say HFA, high functioning autism, and Asperger's, basically I am saying, making a reference to the same neurodivergent condition, which merged, because before 2013, 2014, it was strictly known as Asperger's. Now it is known as high functioning autism. That looks like a map, isn't it? Like a map, like a sword almost. Like a map. Which country, which country, which country? So that is the reality, that we see the world differently. And again, whether that causes, and supposedly there's a correlation between, again, it's not the brand Tylenol, it's the ingredient, between women who are pregnant, who take amphetamine when their pregnancy supposedly could potentially cause HFA, aka Asperger's, right? I wish I could give my anonymous friend his house right on this street. But again, that is not proven 100%. I always say, and I will continue to say, that the cause is inconclusive. We don't know if it's genetic, hereditary, and we don't know if it's biological. That is also in the environmental. So it could be either or a combination. It could be both genetic factors, that is hereditary factors, or environmental factors. The cause we don't know. We know how it manifests. And it manifests with these odd, weird, strange, peculiar, bizarre even characteristics, you know, traits. And sometimes, for example, repeating words 2-3 times. To give you another example, I've been doing this for years, and my friend been telling me, hey, you know, people are looking at you and you look weird, and people are wondering what's going on, you know, because I still do it today. It's not a problem for me, because it's something that doesn't affect others negatively, you know. They might stare, might say, oh, that's a weird behavior, but it's not evil, it's not bad, it's not illegal, it's not negative. So an object such as this is a hand sanitizer. I would take different objects such as cans, bottles, containers, bars, chocolate bars, and whatever bars and containers and objects in the store, and I would inspect it like this to the eye, you know. So actually, in many aspects, if you see somebody doing that, it's possible that has autism or Asperger's or HFA. For example, I would check these numbers, peculiar numbers there. So basically details, right? Such as this detail there. See, there's a number 7,315. See, 7,315, 7,315. A number is either a classification, an industrial classification, or it's possible that that number is not just a classification, but it's possible that that number is exactly the 7,315th product that day, that week, or that month that was on the was put on the assembly line, that was processed on that assembly line in that particular factory which produced this item that has that number. And as you notice on a lot of products, and you might say, you know, I've been buying that product for 20 years, 15 years, 11 years, 7 years, 9 years. I've been buying that product for so many years, but I never noticed that on the product, on the label. So that's something which of course has to be discussed about. But because you might not even notice, people might not even notice that there's peculiar numbers and small numbers like that. Not the code bar. I'm not discussing about the code bar. Code bar is something different. Code bar also has classifications and things of that nature within the company and the corporation. The scanning, of course, which is kind of cool, eh? It's kind of cool. It has mathematics and science, of course, and lasers. But you see on many, check a label in the store. Just look at it. Look at something. You're gonna start noticing these small numbers. So these are either industry standards, industry classifications, or it could be that the numbers just to keep track how many were produced. You know, the company, how many were produced in that specific factory. So it could be that this specific one that I just showed you now, it could be that this was the number 7,315th. And that's why it was printed there. And then the next one would have been 7,316, and then 1718, and before it was 7,314, because it started, right? It would start at number 1. To know the quantity, right? Or it could be that many have that same number, and it could be that represents the factory, that specific factory. If it's a mega corporation or a multinational corporation, that it was produced and designed in that mega corporation. That is just something which we have, of course, to do now. with this meditation. So that of course is the meditation, of course, what we have to do. And of course, in all dissatisfaction, that we might not even know the real answer. Only a few people might actually know. It might be that only a few people know the actual answer. The truth might be somewhere in between, right? Here I gotta watch it. I watch the car. Sometimes it's better to wait, because sometimes they come very fast and you don't see them there because of how the is. So that's why I always wait a few. I always check left and right, and then I turn, you know, because they can come fast, basically, you know, they can just come fast. So that is, of course, the situation, of course, in the public. Oh, these are so nice, you know. I love these. Thank you again, public workers, who put these beautiful embellishments. I gotta pose again. What? I gotta check a little bit of that. That's so nice. Let's. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Whoever planted these are so gorgeous. I just love them so much. Really gorgeous, you know. And that's the metropolis there. Montreal, Hawk Island, downtown core area, you know, and we drill it left, we drill it right, we drill it roundabout, and we're going to my second home, the Mountain Mile Road, which you can go by different sides, and sometimes you go by one side, then you decide to go by another side, and sometimes you just switch, and sometimes you just take a different route, you know. You don't have to take the same route all the time, you can change and variance, and of course, maybe we'll do that, or come on the other side, maybe. How we should do this, you know, because there's so many roads, you know, so many roads which you can take it, and those roads, of course, can be different from different perspectives, you know, different perspectives. You can take different routes, you know? Different routes. I always love coming here to the mountain. It's just a beautification what we have now, and that is, of course, the beautification what we got now to be in all the. Gotta get out of the way for my fellow citizen. Watch it when you cross the car. You get a red. Sometimes it's not better to risk. My fellow cousin was running there, but I guess you calculate the velocity and then the cars crossing there what we got, and that's just something when we gotta be watching for each other, right? Because sometimes it's better not to rush. So that is the reality with which I live with. It's just we see the world differently, you know. And again, thank you, anonymous friend, for the book, which was loaned 4 times. It's called Appreciating Asperger Syndrome. So Appreciating Asperger Syndrome is that book which, of course, has been protruding to my growth, and my understanding of my condition, you know. Because I've refused it for more than 5 years. I've been told since about 2016, you know, since about 2016 with that, and there's just something what you have to do. So since about 2016, I've been told, you know, 2016, and of course, myself, I always refused it. I negated it. I said, no, but I finally, you know, I have the majority, more than 93% of the characteristics, not symptoms, and I have Asperger's. I'm an Aspie, you know. Only about 3.5 years ago, watch it, guys, just crossed the street prudently, you know. It's just a lot of stress. People are going through a lot of stress. Just slow, you know. Though sometimes you gotta just slow down a bit. And it's a lot of stress, and the prices of gas increasing. Financial, of course, increasing with that, and that's just what we have to do, and all together. So, of course, the Asperger's, the autistic population stands at about 0.44%. So 0.44% is not a lot, you know. It's not that much. It's about 1%, right? So basically, if you compare with the 99%ers of the population, that is, of course, just something which you have to calculate. So calculations is, of course, something which we have, of course, to be doing in the domain where we are now. So that's just something when we have to be doing now. So, of course, that's something which we have to calculate. But is the ratio. So it's a calculation which is going to be for millions of people of Canadians. So basically, it's very simple, right? You just take 1%. 1%. It's just 1%, right? It's just 1%, right? Less than 1%, but let's say 1%. So out of the Canadian population is less than 1%. So for every 10 million, it's not even 1 million, because that's 10% is 100,000 about. So then times 40, right? It's 10,000. It's actually 10,000, right? Because it's 1% of the population. It's actually 1%. So 99%. You know mathematics? Oh, okay. Have a nice day. No, because I heard you say 99%. So of course, that is something which we have, of course, to do, and of course all the capabilities, of course, where we are, of course, to be doing, of course, where we have now. The proposition is that we have, of course, to turn our heads left and right, and that is something which we have auntie there to do. 99%, of course, that is the population. So all of course, to say that 99%, of course, co-equivalates to 99%, of course, what we have. The 99%, of course, of the population is you, the neurotypicals. The majority of the population are 99% of the population. 99%. So us, we're neurodivergent with 1%. So of course, that categorization means that in reality it's a tiny fraction of the population, and we see the world differently. So we calculate sometimes in our brains how we see the world is through a lens where we lack the social skills. It's not necessarily that we lack, it's because our brain processes information differently, and so we engage differently in conversations. So it's called a disability, but in reality we're less able in social comprehensions. We have to, of course, be told more directly ourselves, and be told more directly ourselves in the concomitant where we have now to be, and protrude ourselves in all the appellations where we got now to be. And of course, all those domains are that it is so, it is so that our brain functions with these mutations, and that's because of these mutations, thus we perceive the world, and our relationship to the world is different. Not negative, not bad, not evil, not malicious, but it's different from the 99%. So certain things that come easy to you might come really hard for us, right? Might be really difficult for us, right? It might be difficult for us. Anybody want to finance? I go up and down these stairs 300 times. $300 I can go up and down, and getting on that left leg, right leg, and you got an exercise here, So this neurodivergence is prepositioned us that we tend to lose friends, right? Because, for example, the personal space, the 4 yards, we tend to breach that. Myself, my friend always tells me, you're too close, take distance. And thank you again for that book, because appreciating Asperger's syndrome has made me realize my own vulnerabilities, and because of this aspiness, I can be perceived as weird, awkward, strange, and bizarre, and even open to certain vulnerabilities, because the hive mind mentality for us Aspies is difficult to incorporate and process necessarily, and thus leaves us in a more vulnerable position, right? Of this more vulnerable position. So of course that accord is, of course, the interaction of us for less than 1%. Remain out here, rock and roll, because I love coming here. My mistress and you, the majority of the population, with which we have to build bridges, because I don't have antagonistic, negative feelings towards the neurotypicals. I have no such negative feelings, no such evil, bad feelings. It's something that I have to espouse myself, and have to state that my willingness to build bridges has to be on both reciprocal from both sides, from my perspective as a neurodivergent, and you as a neurotypical, we're gonna go check out those beautiful, see how beautiful, Mother Nature is really the greatest scientist, an activist, greatest scientist, an activist. And so that is something which we have, of course, to pronounce ourselves here in the immediacy of the action, of course, based computation that our brains are different and we gotta build bridges nonetheless, because I don't have, again, antagonistic, malicious, evil or negative sentiments towards you, the majority of the population. See how it's changing? Isn't it just beautiful? Mother Nature get that red, red, red. That's what I said. I see the colors of the autumn. I sing them, gotta spring them, autumn coming. I love it. Oh yeah. Rock and roll, creating lyrics and songs, rock and roll, not necessarily the vocals, I'm good at. So, again, we have to build bridges. Whether we build small bridges, big bridges, medium-sized bridges, or extra large. Within those 4 categories, of course, just like when you order a cup of coffee, just like when you order, of course, a cup of coffee or fries. It could be fries, or you could order a small fry and an extra large cup of coffee, or vice versa, right? From individual as an individual sovereign citizen. I don't speak for the collective, tiny, small community of Aspies, but of course I speak for myself and my own struggles and sufferings and all of that jazz that came with being different from a neurological mental perspective. However, the paradox is that we also can excel and be very strong in certain things. Again, not all Aspies are good at computer science. Yes, disproportionately, people with Asperger's and high-functioning autism, autistics, have about a 20% of the Aspie community with autism, about that's 1 out of 5. Statistically disproportionate amount of the population is good with mathematics and thus computer science and science. It's about 20% who are very good at computer science, comparing to the neurotypicals, which depending on the ranges of the variations, of course, of the population, is about, of course, between 1 and 4%, between 1 and 4%, between 1 and 4%. So that 1 and 4% is about 11 times higher, 11 times higher. So the amount, of course, where it is now is, of course, between 11 times higher. So, of course, that amount is, of course, something which we have, of course, to dynamically interpose ourselves. Gotta turn our heads left and right with that, and that is just something which we gotta do, so that is just something which we have now, interposition, so that is just something what we got to do now, so it's something which we have to do, and we have to be careful because we have our vulnerabilities as Aspies, and again, we're not evil, we're not bad, we're not negative, malicious, it's just we see the world differently, and we have to sometimes be told more directly. For example, personal space. When it comes to personal space, personal space, you take about 4 yards, but us Aspies close to 4 inches. Somebody's very close, and I understand because of that book. Thank you, Nana's friend. Appreciating Asperger's syndrome. I have to work Aspies on these non-written social rules, So appreciating Asperger's syndrome has opened my eyes and brains and heart and body to work. I have to work on those characteristics, to build bridges. Well, we can build bridges. And of course, personal space, we tend to breach it, and yes, it can cause alarm and people to be concerned and, kind of discomfort and certain unease, a certain feeling of insecurity, insecurity. It is beautiful. I love coming here. I'm just so joyous when I come here. My second home. I just ask people not to pollute, don't leave trash, because for years and years and years and years I've been cleaning here and bringing it to the recycling and all. I do the work here and watching for branches, because branches can fall. So the more you stay here in the forest, the top of the mountain, the more you're at risk. And if you hear cracks, you gotta be moving on the side and take a hop and make sure you're safe here, As the rock and roll here, my mistress, my second home, my royal, and myself, which I love, my forest, mountain, Mount Royal, headquarters of the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, for the empire, the imperial 63, let it rise and let it be. So of course now that we have, of course, adjacent to the population, what we have now to be discussing further, the general asked me, myself as an individual sovereign would ask first, that building those bridges, it requires a reciprocal effort, right? Not to be too overly intellectual about it, but it requires basically understanding. I don't need a lot of support. I have my routines, I have my financial stress, yes, but personally I don't need a lot of support myself. I don't need a lot of support, just understanding, and you want to work with my dream, and fundamentally that's what I'm mostly about, the dream, my dream, the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which for years and years and years and years I discussed it online, and you can check it out for yourself. The discussions of my dream is always proponent, of course, to a mass public-private partnership, once we have, of course, as an individual collective here, coast to coast, ocean to ocean for the 63, and now just to discuss, finalize on Asperger's and get into my domain or kingdom, the geopolitical one, geopolitics. Now we have 4 problems which mostly affect Aspies, right? These 4 problems are due to our characteristics, such as echolalia, such as repetition, such as breaching personal space, such as the way we communicate, such as our special interest known as obsessive interest, and we have these routines and habits and lack of social social norms we tend to breach because our brain is different, so we sometimes get in trouble because of that. 4 main problems Aspies face: lack of friends. We don't have a lot of friends. My solution is friends with benefits only. Don't waste my time. I will not waste yours. If you're black, you're white, you're black, you're black and white or rainbow, you gotta be 18 plus, you wanna do some extra loving, friends with benefits only, or pledge your allegiance, right? Then lack of long-term employment. Myself, I had many jobs. It's just keeping the jobs, keeping them long-term. So I had a job for 4 months, then another one for a few days, a few weeks, a few months. Many jobs I had. It's just keeping them long-term has been problematic. And the Aspie population, although we're a tiny minority, we stand at 80% unemployment. 80. Can you imagine? For every one of you, there's 11 of us. That's 4 out of 5. It's totally ridiculous and horrible, unacceptable. The other problem which we encounter, Aspies encounter most, is of course the high depression and suicidal rates as well. I've been depressed and suicidal for a few years, and I got out of depression when I traversed Canada coast to coast. That made me establish a strong spirit of core with my fellow Canadians, North Americans, whom I consider family, and that was my great revelation and awakening. I said, wow, such a great country. And I lost about 80 and 93 pounds because afterwards I started working out, and so high depression and suicidal rates about 9 times higher. And another one, the fourth one, these 4, and another one, the fourth one is of course the one that it is of course adjacent. In a way, some levels of importance vary, but it is of course high dropout rates. So a lot of people with autism and Asperger's, and which is HFA, drop out of high school very high, like 8-9 times higher than the regular population, although we're in a minority. And even higher education, high school and even higher education, college, university. Myself, I have a high school diploma, so I do have a high school diploma, although I dropped out of college. I don't remember that far, before 2014, like January-ish, February 2014. I have trouble remembering my life phase, so it's kind of like a blackout. So now leave that baggage at the door, and we're going to discuss geopolitics, right? So this is going to be the next hour of geopolitics only. So back in 2019, we're going to go back in time in October. In October 2019, I had predicted that there's going to be an international conflagration. So I have predicted, of course, that there was going to be an international conflagration back in October 2019. I have the proof for what I said, because of course I have the video, and of course I also made and produced a workout training program system designed, made and created to go with such a scenario, such as a workout training program system, right? Such a scenario. So that, of course, scenario that I created, of course, was due, of course, to the fact that we have, of course, to be simultaneously involved in all the domain where we have now to be in the situation awareness, of course, where we are now to be all of the situation deteriorations. And when you hear the sirens, please do the 360. And of course, that is something which we have, of course, to do. 360, of course, and that is what we have to do now. So 360. When you're on the roads, you hear the sirens of the police, or the sirens of the ambulance, sirens of the ambulance, or sirens of the firefighters. You do the 180 to the left, 180 to the right. If you're driving, slow down. The money in a car is not that important in life is. And of course, do the 180 left, 180 right. Turn, of course, in a circumstantial position, left or right, and do, of course, the citizen integrated full circle. Citizen integrated full circle, total security initiative. My public imperial citizen security initiative to do the full circle. So that is what you have to do. And I call all to do it. It's basically the full circle citizen integrated security protocols. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. Back in 2019, I predicted what's happening now. I have proof. October 17th, I have posted the first video. So of course, October 17th, I have posted the first video in relation, of course, to the proof. I predicted an international conflagration. However, what I did not predict was that there is going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States, with the United States. So that I did not predict. I predicted an international conflagration, but I did not predict a deterioration of relations with the United States. So because our relations have deteriorated further. So that's what it is with that. And of course, you got to be careful. Hello? Excuse me? You're at risk because of the branch here. You're aware?
Non.
You see, tu vois la branche? Je parle français?
Ouais.
Tu vois la branche là, ma chère? Tu vois qu'elle est en veille de tomber en haut? S'il y a du vent, fais attention. Parce que c'est ici, là, elle est en veille de tomber bientôt. Comme tu vois les autres branches qui sont là, puis t'es juste dans le chemin direct là. See this branch, I keep on warning people, but it's got to be cut off. Look at that. This branch is about, ça fait plaisir. That was French, so of course you got to check that branch because you could see it's just standing on nothing there. Standing on nothing. So you got to be careful there. This one has to be cut by somebody. See, she was right in the middle to get it on that go, So that is just what it is with that. So got to watch it for that branch is about to fall there. That is what it is, man. You got that branches. It's about to. If it's windy, if the wind picks up out of nowhere, that branch is about to fall. See how it's standing on nothing there? She's right in the line of sight. Line of sight, military strategies. But of course, that is, of course, the situation, of course, what we have now to do. So it's just for their safety. And sometimes I saw last. It was with the children there, so that is some things which we have, of course, to do. Because here you're in the wilderness, the wind might start picking up, storm out of nowhere. You're there texting or doing whatever. You're on the bench and the branch falls, see? Branch like this, see, it won't fall from above. And that one is about to give way, That one is about to give way. That one is about to give way, That one is about to give way. So that is just the appellation, of course, what we got to be doing on that, So that is what we have to do now to be on the awareness. So now what we have is we're gonna go, of course, to do and to discuss, of course, the consequential operation what we have now, to do now. So now the dimensional aspects of us going to see, to hydrate again. Gonna go hydrate. I'm gonna discuss geopolitics. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019 again. Again, what I did not predict, however, was that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States. So this is new for me, and I always get goosebumps See, when I discuss it, because you know, my brothers and sisters, this is serious. Since the 1st of August 2025, of course, it's the 1st of August 2025, were designated, of course, as an unusual and extraordinary threat. The United States were designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. Of course, the United States, you know, were designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat, right? Since 2025, since August 1st, were designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. That is due, that it's written in black and white there by the White House. So it's declaration that due to the fact that we have espoused several layers which are given there of, first and foremost, of why the tariffs were increased on Canada starting August 1st. The motive is given that the fentanyl, which has crossed, has more than tripled since 2024 last year. Another reason is the lack of coordination. Now, when you coordinate, you don't necessarily, you cooperate as well. When you cooperate, it could be just trading, exchanging information and knowledge. Coordination implies joint action. So that's written in the White House official documents and statements by the Trump administration and signed by Trump, President Trump himself, to the motive to why he has increased and the Trump administration have decided to increase tariffs on Canada. Lack of cooperation, coordination. Law enforcement, and there's another reason is given, of course, that there was so much fentanyl which crossed that could have potentially killed 16 million Americans. 16 million Americans, of course, 16 million Americans, of course, that's twice the population of Quebec here. Twice the population of Quebec. So, of course, that population which we do in the circumstantial position where we are now, to be now manifesting in the side, that is, of course, also given there, is the fact that now in the fact that where we have to do considerable about, and it's of course to be considered that it is something which we have, of course, to do. So it's just something when we have, of course, to be categorically, and of course say that this is, of course, a pro, of course, situation, and the situational awareness is, of course, in all the appellation what we have now to be and to get doing on that go there, and that's something which we're gonna have to fix, and we're gonna have to be the dynamics about all the relationship where we got now. So now, and I thank those workers who built this for me, for you, for us to have hydration here. So also another motive given is the rise of super labs in Canada. Super labs, and I'm going to hydrate and discuss the warnings of the RCMP and the dismantling by the RCMP of the greatest ever super lab in Canadian history back in last year, 25th of October 2024. Hydrate. That is, of course, great hydration there, and that is what we got to do, you know, to get it on that love, man. Oh, here at the back of the Belvedere, and this is the chalet, the headquarters of the dancing goddess of the Dragon Kingdom, and that's what we have here. Something really beautiful in that, and that's something which we gotta get doing on that drill with that rock and roll, you know. So that's always gotta be drilling, and I love to see a little bit of rainbow with that, and that's how we gotta get on that X and on that. Oh, see, you gotta get doing on that to be an XYZ here, the expats, and coming here a little bit of that Quebec, a little bit of Province. We gotta see the big river, you know. big river with that, and that is something which we have to be doing on the XYZ, and gotta be XYZ for the circumstantial position where we are now, and of course to be in the appellation where we got, of course, to be of our dynamics, of course, of what we have predicted, that we are now designated as an unusual, an extraordinary threat. As an unusual and extraordinary threat, we have, of course, to be consequentially in the prudence, of course, in the advancement of the 63 for total SSD, total security, total service, total defense, in the compendium where we have now to be resolutely implied in all these domain names and the appellations where we got here on the mountain to be, of course, transversal, where we got now to, of course, inclinate ourselves for the left and the right and the Z, and of course in all the domains where we got appellation to be in the XYZ affairs of the mankind for world peace, but fundamentally this North American context, because we constitute a North American civilizational complex which is not only diverse but is distinct from Western civilization. So we're gonna continue our journey. So I gotta keep it on a stretch a little bit. I just want to swing a little bit on the fundamental there where we have now to build, and all the domains where we got to be careful when we cross this. Here sometimes where there are not that many bikes here, but on the side here there's a lot of biking going on, so there's a significant amount of bikes, and just want to go for those, of course, yellows there, and that is just something where we got now to be crossing on the street prudently in all the conferences that I gotta admire, because I love these yellow flowers, and these yellow flowers always quadruple my smile. Look at that. Isn't just beautiful for the bees. Thank you. And great city here, you know, the great city in the domain where we got now that I gotta show off a little bit of this headquarters of the dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom before we go back into geopolitics. But of course it is the significance, of course, that it is something of a great nature here where we have, of course, now to be, and a beautiful, look at this, isn't just one of the greatest gardens you ever seen. That is something which you have seen yourself. You gotta check and salute, of course, the public workers which built, of course, this, and the building of the public workers which we have now. But this is so beautiful here. Nice. These yellow ones are so nice, and these feel so good. So thank you, public workers. It's really different every year. Very different every year, but that one is just so beautiful there. Every year seems to be different. I'm just gonna stretch a bit with that, and that is just so gorgeous with that. So that is, wow, so nice with the being, of course, with that, and that's all we're gonna get doing for the drill C4, and that is something which we have to do ourselves. Just gorgeous here, gorgeous here, beautiful. That's it. So the US border is that way. The border is where the moon is. You can see part of the moon. So the 50 states are there, see? 50 states. You can see part of the mountain, see? So we gotta get rid of that border. We gotta get rid of that border. Fuse Canada, United States. So that border has to go. We don't need it. We gotta do the great census and fuse the RCMP, the FBI, and get rid of the border. Implement the DRT, debt rule fusion to, and get it coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and do the great census. Of course, so we gotta get in the Golden Dome, so that we can intercept those ICBM rockets. You know, they've been building more. In theory, the ICBM rockets can land here, eh? So the Yars 24 can actually hit here from. They have a range of 10,500 kilometers. 10,500 kilometers from Montreal to Moscow is 8,500. Right, so the new ones that they build, they have a capability, of course, to reach here, right? So they have a capability, of course, to reach And it's just something which we have, of course, to be in the categories, of course, where we have to be on the situational awareness of which we have now. So it's something where we gotta be, of course, aware of all the situational complexes is where you are, you're... Think about some... It is. It's because they don't understand. C'est pas le déclin, c'est la naissance. So what they don't fully understand. Yeah. What they don't understand. Is the it's not the end. C'est pas le déclin, hein? What actually has been happening. This is not the end. Here's the birth. Birth. It's the birth. It's the birth. C'est la naissance. Right, I just had a meditation, a little bit of a just meditating a vision, of course, of the 63, the perpetual imperial republic. So now we're gonna get, of course, into how we're gonna get the solutions, you know? That's all we got, and so we gotta get on that rock and roll. So there's, of course, the situational awareness of where we are now, you know, for the XYZ and the love and all those categories, of course, where we got now to be influential about all the positions where we got. And of course, this is the concordiate which we have to do. So that is the realities which we're facing today. And now what I'm gonna say is you have to accord it with a yes. With a yes. So you cannot say no, right? You cannot say no. You cannot say no. You have to say it with a yes. 4 yeses. 4 yeses. So you have to accord it in a principium type of manner, in the affirmative. You cannot negate it. So it has to be affirmed with yes. So this is a geopolitical statement, which of course we have to fully comprehend, that it has to do with foreign affairs. Now, those foreign affairs is of course the comprehension of the foreign position where we are as a Canadian Dominion, as a state that of course is consequently should have been, could have been, whatever the case may be, should have been a republic. Should have been a republic. So of course that consequentialness, of course, what we have now is something where you have to be in the conqueror, mittently, of course, in the representative appellation of all the domains, where we, without being too intellectual, sophisticated about it, you have to affirm this following proposition, statement, with a yes. Now we're just dealing with geopolitics now. We're not dealing with other affairs. So if you're not interested in geopolitics, best not to listen from now on. So our main interest is, as Canadians, the king being absent, the king is absent. It's time for the republic. We should have been a republic at the end of the millennium. On the 1st of January 1999, we should have been a republic. At the end, right? The king is absent, the king gotta go. Time for the republic, and it's time for the Imperial Democratic Republic of the Perpetual 63. That's a little bit of that German here, right? I like the yellow and the black combination goes together well. A little bit of green and red would be nice on it too. So now that we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat due to those factors, and again, the factors given there is that there's growing fentanyl production, even super labs, and last year the RCMP, just last year, the 25th of October last year, 2024, in BC, British Columbia, they dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab in Canadian history. There has never been such a big lab being dismantled in Canada as that, of course, lab which was dismantled on the 24th. On the 24th. The lab which was dismantled on the 25th in 2024, 25th of October. Which the RCMP dismantled, and they seized weapons, munitions, other things, and of course they also seized munitions, weapons, and 95 million doses. 95 million doses. 95 million doses, of course, for it to be 95 million doses of fentanyl, which could have potentially killed the population of Canada twice the population of Canada twice. So being that they could have killed the population of Canada twice, that amount of fentanyl would have been so incredible. So incredible. So 95 million. So 95 million. His could have, of course, killed the population of Canada twice over. Twice over. You know, twice over the population of Canada. Twice. Just that one super lab. One super lab. We're going to stretch out a bit our legs here. Salute the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses. Sing some rock and roll. For the 63, always let it rise, let it be. That's my favorite skyscraper there, see? Thank you for the builders, the construction workers, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, the nurses, the doctors all across the 63. Let it rise and let it be always for the 10, the 50, the bridge builders, the public workers, all those construction workers, all those involved in the production and distribution of food, helicopters, choppers, ambulance workers. Stretch a little bit of that leg left and right, and that's my favorite skyscraper, the Pyramid Hawk Island, second headquarters, bilateral headquarters of the coming of our empire, which is going to manifest like that double-headed, double-faced N, that N, the letter N, just like that is a constant. The constant number N, which I'm going to make a reference to, of course. Now, before I salute the firefighters, the butchers, the bakers, public workers who build the bridges, the aqueducts, the hydroelectricity here, Hydro-Quebec go, Hydro-Quebec build some more. Our electricity goes to about 6 states, of course, all the way to the United States, all the way to Manhattan Island. And as I said before, that border gotta go. You can see a lot of mountains there, all the way to the United States. You can see part of the skyscrapers, the pyramid. You can see the pyramid. That's my favorite skyscraper, right in the heart there. Here, the Mount Royal. We're on a mountain, Mount Royal. You can see the river. So it's an island, eh? Here you live on an island surrounded, Hawk Island, Montreal. It's surrounded by that big river that you can see there. See? Big river surrounds this island of the Hawk, which is going to be the second double trouble headquarters. We're going to have to put it for total security, total service, total defense to make a big headquarters here for the Dragon Army coast to coast, parallel with Quantico, Virginia, and of course the Pentagon. And of course, going to establish 4 total for the 63 coast to coast, ocean to ocean, south, north, north, south, east, west, double trouble parallel, east and west, and north and south is going to be like 4 main points, which are going to be established or linked. Washington, D.C. with Montreal and Hawk Island. That's that double trouble for the firefighters, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, electricians, and the plumbers, and the bakers, all those train conductors, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, all those now doing a little bit of that jogging, doing a little bit of that workout, doing a little bit of that fitness, doing a little bit of that sharing, doing a little bit about baking bread, making cheeseburgers, hamburgers, all the fast food workers, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, double cheeseburger, triple, I could eat a triple cheeseburger, make it 4 meats, make it a quadruple cheeseburger, dragon cheeseburgers for the army, give me cheeseburgers, fries every day, don't mind that good Canadian food with some squashes. Drop down and give me some push-ups. Say low VE to the nurses, doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, construction workers, daycare workers, changing diapers, firefighters, those in the warehouse workers, construction workers, all those of course involved in the production, distribution of food, cleaning workers, all those of course appellated to be instructively in all the domains where we have now circumspective of course to have this privilege of civilization, and of course all those now building a little bit of that rock and roll. They keep on building, gonna stretch a little bit of those legs and keep on stretching a little bit left, a little bit right, and gonna go right in. And more people came today than usually come. Now more people are coming less and less. Gonna pose here the Hawk Island, Montreal, HAWK, favorite skyscraper right there. That's the favorite skyscraper, the pyramid. That's the favorite skyscraper, the pyramid, and clear the road. It's a great view here. You can come and check out the Montreal HAWK, 2.5 million people metropolis. We're surrounded by a big river. It surrounds the whole island itself, and it just goes round about the island. So come enjoy learn a little bit of that French, and hear my second home, the mountain. That is just something which I gotta be that LOV here, that noise for the construction workers, rock and roll. So back to what I was saying. We are designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat. Please, I don't mind you drinking. Drink. Oh, this is high alcohol. I get probably drunk by drinking 2 like these. South Korea. But please, you gotta recycle these. I don't mind if you recycle. I want to try one and when I could afford, but please don't leave this here. Please recycle it. Recycle these. Good day, imported, I get it. It traveled a long way, but because so what if somebody comes here? Some people will jog and and you got birds and flora. So don't leave it. Just drink, make love, make out. Here's legal cannabis, but just don't leave it. Don't leave it there. Just the bottom of the heart, please. Just don't. That's a please. Thank you for understanding. And now I'm just gonna disinfect my hands because I touched it, and I don't know, of course, the personal hygiene. I give benefit of the doubt to all, but it's gonna put a little bit of that. I gotta get a refill. Put a hand sanitizer and microbes, bacteria, germs. Microbes, bacteria, and germs, they travel around the bow, so that's what we got. So now we're designated as an unusual and extraordinary threat by the USA. And I was born in the United States 3 times, for 77. So I'm Canadian American. I am Quebecer, Canadian, North American. This is my home, and This island is my home. Many past lives, many incarnations. From here, to the left, right, and B, and of course to the national. So we got now inconclusive to be now, to get the domain where we got, and all those things what we have now, to be on the doers, See you changing some of that good colors. I actually love all seasons, but autumn got those special colors. I love summer. 4 seasons I don't mind. Summer I love a lot of that July, August heat, but winter I even come here. Sometimes I'm alone. I come here during winter storms, even atop the mountain here. Like me, and just I see somebody else sometimes with that. And that's just something where we gotta get doing like that. And that's just that drill, for that. And that's what we gotta get doing with that. And that's some red. And now back to geopolitics. So what I was saying is, of course, of super importance, critical importance that we fix the relations in the North American collective, because we constitute a North American civilizational complex, which is not only divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. So we have a distinction from Western civilization, but we're not divorced. That is what you have to learn, of course, and this learning is, of course, that is the learning where we got now to be doing like that. So, of course, it's something which, of course, you have to understand fully and all the compromittently what we got now, of course, to resolutely involve ourselves where all the domains that are protruding now to appellate ourselves to be. It is something where we have, of course, to be doing. So, of course, all that civilizational complex what we got now is, of course, all the drills what we got, and that is the reality of all our realities here as we appellate ourselves to further strengthen even more. A priori, we have had the resolution, of course, to be in the coming relations with the United States that we have reached a low point. So I did not predict that we're going to have, of course, this type of situation. I predicted an international conflagration, but of course I did not predict the deterioration of relations with the United States. So now, what I'm going to say now is that, of course, you have to accord it with a yes. Yes. You cannot say no, you cannot negate it. That our main interest is to have, when it comes to foreign affairs, there's a principal interest. So our main interest when it comes to establishing a hierarchy of interest in foreign relations, foreign affairs, foreign relations, not internal domestic ones, for both Canada and United States, and for Canada vis-a-vis the United States, and for the United States vis-a-vis Canada. We have to work to establish, to attain the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, diplomatic, defense relations with each other, right? You cannot negotiate with that fact because of our geographical relation position. We got coast to coast, ocean to ocean, the Atlantic and the Pacific, right? And then we have 75% of our goods go to the United States. 75% of our goods go to the United States, right? 3/4. So because of that, the geographical relations and the positions thereof are, of course, something which we have, of course, to resolutely, of course, be aware of. So you cannot negotiate. That's a non-negotiable fact. You might say yes, no, maybe, but it's, of course, a yes. So, of course, that proposition, what we have, of course, to be is the situational awareness, of course, of us, being that we are, of course, now in the resolute action to take, of course, for action where we have now the priority of the domain where we got now, where we are now. This is just practical geopolitics. It's not abstract or philosophical. The realities, of course, are that we have, of course, to be in the position where we are now. This is not abstract again. This is not philosophical, right? This is what it is geopolitically. Of course, it's a Dragon versus Trump since 2018. Dragon versus Trump since 2018. Of course, Dragon versus Trump since 2018. So, of course, that is just the proposition where we are now. So, of course, that is just the reality of what it is. That is just the reality Geopolitical reality is a non-negotiable. You cannot negotiate that, right? You cannot say no. You cannot say maybe. You have to say yes, yes, yes. Our main interest, this is for also for my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, in the United States, vis-a-vis us. There's no way around this fact, right? There's no way around this fact, of course. There's no way you can negotiate this out of this reality, geopolitical reality. So as a main interest that we have when it comes to foreign affairs, we have to place that we built, establish the most cordial economic, social, financial, diplomatic relations with the United States. You follow? There's just no way out of this, you know. There's just no way out of this, right? There's just no way out of this. You follow what's going on geopolitically. So now that we are designated by the United States as an unusual and extraordinary threat to the American people, the majority of our diplomatic forces and actions thereof have to be to fix the relations, right? And there in the United States, by the White House administration, they mentioned the super labs, and the RCMP has been warning us for many, many years. Since 2015, the RCMP sounded the alarm, just like I've been sounding the alarm since 2019 about a coming international conflagration and geopolitical storm, like World War III, which has been kind of unfolding to what I have predicted. But again, I did not predict that there's going to be a deterioration of relations with the United States, right? With the United States. So that I did not predict, right? That I did not predict. I predicted globally. But the re-election of Donald Trump, I did not predict. But now, as a geopolitical theoretical analyst and philosopher, I can say that that's on the left, on the right, and in the center. Center left, center right. I'm not addressing far rights and far left here. Far left and far right. Right? Far left and far right. I'm not addressing those instances of political affairs. But geopolitically, the king is absent. We have to establish to work to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial, diplomatic, security relations with the United States. United States. That's just how it is. You cannot, of course, concord it differently and in another proposition, you know. You cannot concord it differently or in another proposition. That is just the reality. The geopolitical reality, because we got the geographical realities, is that the fact that we have two oceans, coast to coast, eh? We got two coasts, two oceans. That's just a geographical reality. Geographically, that is the reality from a geographical perspective, right? That is just the geography. And then we have the fact that since the end of the Second World War, the dissolution of the British Empire has occurred. So the dissolution of the British Empire, losing power, thus the dominion of Canada, paradoxically, because, and then with the British Commonwealth, also losing power in many ways. So we are in this position. And the United States, although you have a border with Mexico, the best relations to establish is with us, Canadians. So that is just the realities of our peculiar instances, of our peculiarities, that it is so. We must establish, of course, to have the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States. And you, although you have a border with Mexico, it is with us, vis-a-vis us. Case closed. It is only yes, 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 yes to that. There's no maybe. Geographically it is so, and geopolitically it is so. We have to work, our main interest has to be when it comes to foreign affairs, that we work to establish the best, most cordial economic, social, financial relations with the United States, and the United States also you towards us. So the RCMP warned us since about 2015, They sounded the alarm that there's a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups establishing themselves in Canada, even in 2021 during COVID. And what happened last year? The RCMP dismantled the biggest ever drug super lab in Canadian history. And a few months later, just 2 months ago, Trump administration of the United States mentions that one of the motives of that increase in tariffs, and of course increasing in tariffs on us, which is unprecedented, designating Canada as an unusual and extraordinary threat due to the fact that we have a growing transnational criminal syndicate organized groups which establish and run, of course, super labs. Now, what if there were 5 super labs? If there were 5 super labs and the RCMP seized one, that means that there's 4 to go. That means that there's 4 to go. Of course, there's 4 to go, 4 to go, and 4 to go. That means there's 4 to go somewhere. Maybe one in Quebec, maybe one in Alberta, maybe one in Nova Scotia, maybe there's another one in Saskatchewan, right? It could be that they're all across Canada. So that means that there's 4 to go. So of course if those super labs are producing the same amount of fentanyl, we could kill so many people. And more, I'm designating this fentanyl as a bioweapon. Because it doesn't make sense from a drug dealer perspective to me financially, since of course this is the motive to sell drugs for financial, economic, buy their 44 cars and 4 mansions, or 40 cars and 4 mansions, right, and 3 planes, whatever the case may be. But since people are dying, there seems to be some tempering with the drug, and then transforming it kind of into bioweapon. And then we go back to my DMAA theory, the direct military assistance in action, which has its consequences thereof, which can be nation states and countries financing internal foment, and of course organizing themselves to establish transnational criminal syndicate organized groups to run internal domestically to cause us harm. I'm going to get into the DMA in a minute, but the RCMP has warned us, and it is in a parallel life. I'm also an ASPI, and I build, design supercomputers, microchips, 3G, 4G telecommunication antennas. It is November 30th, the year of darkness 2029, in that parallel self, with my parallel life, parallel universe self. I'm also an ASPI, and it is the year of darkness 2029. It is the year of darkness 2029, and I build, design, create supercomputers, satellites, microchips, telecommunication gadgets, all things to do with science and technology in that parallel life, such as I develop here geopolitical theories. And in a parallel life, I know everything there is to know about these antennas, radio, telecommunication. It's 7G, 6G, and 5Gs in that. But in a parallel life, I would know everything there is to know about supercomputers, microchips, antennas, telecommunication. I build supercomputers, radios, microchips, and I work between United States, Germany, Canada, and Israel, because in that parallel timeline, Israel and Mexico are part of NATO. So I build a public-private partnership, super satellites for total SSD, as I've been advocating now. And if you don't know that, actually before October 7, 2023, I was advocating for Israel and Mexico to join simultaneously as the 32nd and 33rd member of NATO. It was called, you see my videos, it was called Genesis 33 Protocols, NATO Genesis 33 Protocols, as we are here on top of the mountain, a little bit of that sun, and we're going to go into the sun now. So pledge your allegiance to our family, support the DRT, and now we're going to discuss the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance and Action, a little bit, because it's super important that we do. So of course the DMAA, the Direct Military Assistance and Action, is something which we're going to discuss together. So the DMAA, Direct Military Assistance and Action, is my theory protocol. It's not just a theory, it's a reference, it's a frame of reference, it's a working tool, and it has to do with a working protocol, theoretical protocol, protocol which endeavors us to be inside to internal of a plateau of NATO, of course. So of course the situational awareness of the NATO revolutions, again, we have to be concorded, just like the motto of NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, states that it's animus inconsuelo liber, animus inconsuelo liber, that of course this is Latin for a mind unfettered in deliberation. I'm just going to get out of the way, the 4 steps to the right principle. So of course the motto of NATO is animus inconsuelo liber, animus, that is Latin for a mind unfettered in deliberation. Thus my theory, the DMAA, has to be integral, of course, in the protocol to be established and incorporated as a working tool, working progress, where we have, of course, now to be. So of course all that situational position of the DMAA, direct military assistance and action, has consequences, and of course the consequences can be transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, of course, to foment internal discord in the North American collective, of course, in Canada, United States. See, this is go steep. You go very steep there, it pulls up. So you got to bend your knees a bit here when you go down. You got to bend your knees. So of course that is, of course, the situational awareness where we have now, and of course that is the proposition. So all internal plateau where we have now to be is that the descent here can be by us being smoother, more secure, just like military drills type of style. Just bend your knees a bit and watch it, because of course you have mud, of course. So mud is of course something what we got now. So all, of course, now that we have it, is of course discussion of the DMAA. You have to think, you have to meditate upon the theory. You have to acknowledge the theory as a, not just a theory, but as a working tool, as a reference for future action or inaction, strictly military. So it's, thank you, anonymous friend, for when I discussed it with her, she brought to my attention that not to seem that it's not compassionate or empathetic, when of course ASPs, people like myself, we do not necessarily verbally console, but we offer tangible compassion by action, and empathy by action. So that fundamentally what we have, of course, in the regards to this matters. It's not humanitarian assistance or action or aid or help. It's strictly a military affairs one. So that's why it stands, it's the DMAA, direct military assistance and action. DMAA, direct military assistance and action, right? It has nothing to do with humanitarian aid, providing provisions of food, providing provisions of food, providing anything of such sort, such as food, shelter, sanitation pads, tampons, and baby powder, anything to do with humanitarian or healthcare, right? It's military. The DMAA is a working tool, it's a protocol, and just like the motto of NATO stands for animus inconsuelo liber, which is the Latin translation for a mind unfettered in deliberation, so the DMAA, of course, has to be established and concorded throughout all NATO member countries, and of course it has to be established throughout all NATO member countries. That is just the solution and the protocols which have to be established thereof integrally in the affairs from now on, because it has consequences. And one of the consequences of taking DMAA, such as the solidification of Russia-Chinese relations. China and Russia solidified their relation. They solidified their relation to an extreme manner, of course, vis-a-vis NATO and NATO member countries, or the whole organization, which has only invoked Article 5 for common collective defense only once, only once during September 11th. So, because NATO member countries, of which Canada, we provided military assistance, for example, to Ukraine. And this has to do only when it's not regarding Article 5, which has been invoked only once. So it's between non-NATO countries which are in conflict, open warfare, open conflict. Israel, Hamas was founded in the 80s, and China, Taiwan, which is a potential conflict on the horizon, Pakistan, India, right? So providing assistance can cause those consequences that those police, secret police of those nation states, and of course covert operations and such support on the ground in NATO member countries of transnational criminal syndicate organized groups, such as the one that was dismantled by the RCMP last year, which has caused us this problem with the United States and other means, right? Because it has the C, the consequence. So DMAA, direct military assistance or action, has in parentheses the C, the consequence. If we take it, is the consequence. So that consequence can manifest itself in different ways. So C is the consequence for us, NATO member countries or individual countries from NATO, taking action in non-NATO member conflicts, right? Follow? So that is the DMAA. For example, Canada providing munition, helmets, artillery, weaponry, and of course armored vehicles, etc., to Ukraine. Right? Ukraine is not part of NATO. There wasn't a vote, there wasn't a referendum, but the DMAA from now on has to be incorporated because of the consequences that it can pose to individual nation states, such as transnational criminal syndicate organized groups being, of course, supported by member nation states such as Russia, China, Brazil, and the solidification of their relation. For example, BRICS, for example, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They have, of course, solidified their relations further in much adverse to this consequence of the DMAA, which of course they have been taken before. So of course that they have been taken before to be on the side of the consequences, it is of course something which of course have to be alarmed with. And of course something which you have to be alarmed with in all the consequential way we have now to be XYZ, the plateau of the organizational manners of which we organize ourselves in the future, and not just the organization and the intellectual capabilities that which are directed for us to take action or to refrain from action or for resistance, that the DMAA has to be a work tool. So of course all that work tool, and of course what it entails is that we have of course to collectively decide and make a working tool for a protocol for deliberation whether we take action in the future. So the DMAA is kind of the summary bonum. It is the consequence of the direct military assistance and action, which can pose a risk to our citizens internally because we have taken action which is in regards to non-NATO member countries. So that is the sum and bonum. I'm just gonna stretch a bit and go in the sun and discuss the DRT. So now we're gonna go towards the sun, towards the sun. We go. There's a 022 and 41 on that. I just saw the bus with 44 before. 44. And I see the lines. This is an ASPE thing, we always focus, but that's not actually the number of the bus. But see, this one has 41 and then line and 022. That's an internal classification for the STM, and of course, before I just saw 40 and 22, and I also saw 44 and 22 today. So maybe that's the clarification. Now we're gonna go towards the sun and we're gonna turn left and right. Here you can check. The car comes from there sometimes, see? Gonna come from there, so that's what we have to do. Turn your heads left and right. We're gonna get on that drill and see. Perfect, because the moon is to my left and the sun is to my right. So heading back home now because I'm getting a bit on the hungry, and that is something which you gotta salute here, the public workers. Before I get into the DRT, debt refusion to you're gonna have to discuss it now. So leave the baggage at the door. We're gonna discuss a little bit of finance, and again, for years and years and years I have predicted what's happening now, generally geopolitically, of course, in the manner of course what we have now. So of course all the consequential operations is what we have now, for all the drills where we got now to be of course in concordiate to of course all the simultaneous awareness of all these domains that we are now are. The reality is that I have also consequently predicted, you can check back 3.5 years ago during COVID, that I predicted what the PMO public budget officer has of course concorded and predicted that we are done, kind of paradoxically, really harsh words, that we're done if we don't change, because I predicted that the debt will be too much of a burden, the debt servicing, and now the deficit is increasing by about 16 million. Correction, billion. Billion is 1,000 million. Can you imagine, from 52 billion to like 69? So from there's a billion, but a billion is 1,000 million. So it increases the deficit by more than 16 billion, brothers and sisters. A billion is 1,000 million. So that's why my DRT theory, the debt refusion theory, is the solution. This DRT, debt refusion theory, is the solution. The debt refusion theory is the solution. So that's why we have to accord and do that. The debt refusion theory, of course, is the solution. The debt refusion theory. So now we're going to discuss the DRT, the debt refusion theory. The debt refusion theory is consequentially what we have, of course, to do and interpose in all the manners where we got to salute, of course, the public workers, where we got now the public workers on that go. So that is just something what we have, of course, to do now. So it's, of course, the debt refusion theory. And there, if you want to check, now there are no horses there, but there's horses there usually. Horses are the police. I served in the police when I met Luis here in a past life, previous incarnation in 1904. But there you can check, of course, the horses. Horses are the police. Horses are the police. Horses are the police there, you know, and you see a little bit of that go, and that's a little bit of that rock and roll. So, yeah, that's something which, they're not there, but sometimes they're there outside, eh? Yeah, sometimes you see them pull the horses, but they're not there. I don't see them actually. Sometimes they're not, sometimes they are. So now we're going to discuss the DRT. Focus on now is geopolitical finance. So what is the DRT? And again, why do I make the statement that it is the only solution, or something similar to my DRT, of something similar which resembles my DRT theory is the solution? Because we have arrived as a critical point, both in the public and the private finances, that the majority of Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the USA suffer from. Those four main problems are the growing cost of living, price of gas, price of bacon, price of cheese, price of milk. The prices are increasing. So the price is increasing, right? So that is a big problem, the increasing of the prices. And of course, parallel to that, the stagnation of the salaries. The salaries are, of course, stagnating. You see more and more salaries are actually stagnating in consequential relation, that the salaries are, of course, stagnating there. So the stagnation of the salaries is, of course, something which, of course, we have to take into consideration. So the stagnation of the salaries are, of course, attributed to the manners, of course, prudent for us to continue the discussion that it is a big problem now that we're facing, that the salaries are also stagnating. So the stagnation of the salaries, jointly with the cost of living, which is increasing, the cost of living increasing, that adds an extra burden, right? Because you have less purchasing power to buy, finance other goods, right? You have less purchasing power to buy, finance other goods. Whatever those goods are, you have less of a power, less of a purchasing power thereof, right? So you have less purchasing power. That's basically and fundamentally, of course, the proposition where we have now to, of course, simultaneously and at the same time be super intellectual about, or super sophisticated about, without being too sophisticated and too intellectual about my DRT theory, that it is fundamentally the solution, or if not the DRT as I explain it, something similar to my debt refusion theory is the solution. So I'm going to now, of course, discuss it fully, as it is super important for one and all to comprehend fully the solution which I'm proposing for these growing problems, which of course we all face, myself included, being financially stressed at the moment, but always open for business and pleasure. And of course that is the paradox. It is in many ways paradoxical, because my main special interest is geopolitics, is not finance. But of course, when you study geopolitics, you have to have a certain awareness, of course, of the financial aspects of a nation state, public finances, and the general well-being of the population in the economic, financial, commercial terms. So those four problems, growing cost of living, even the car spending more than about 75% more than the gas was before COVID, eh? So that's a big increase, and the majority of the salaries have stagnated. The increase, of course, in salaries has not been much, but of course has been about 4.4%. So of course, all that, of course, affair, and of course it is to say, of course, that it is the diplomatic manners in which, of course, we have to diplomatically explain it, and then, of course, in a philosophical manner as well, and then to take action as a mass public-private partnership, and binationally, because we are going to implement the DRT binationally, Canada, United States, and we're gonna get rid of the border, fuse the RCMP and the FBI, create the two complementary covenant cooperative institutions, the Dragon Army, aka Imperial Integrated SSD Legion. SSD stands for Security Service or Defense, integrated with all existing citizen operations and organization, and the SSD, and of course parallel to the SSD, that's what we're gonna do. And of course we're gonna get that drill in the corporations, and then of course the appellations, where we're gonna of course also do that communique and also finance the DGA, Dancing Goddess Army, to be for environmental education and action as mass public private partnerships. The four economic, financial, commercial problems, stresses which are affecting the majority of my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, United States and Canada are the growing cost of living, right? The growing cost of living. Prices are increasing. The second one is salaries are stagnating. The third one is of course the rents are increasing. My rent also went up, but I'm gonna say also, but I can accept it because it's not that much for me, but it is a bit, but not that much that I can complain fully. So it is between 6 and 10, between 6 and 10. 6 and 10, 6 and 10. So that is just something which we have to be. And the other one is of course the growing credit card debt. Even now somebody's swiping credit card debt. So here it is, this explain the debt refusion theory. The DRT also includes the monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union in the 90s. The Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, they of course, what they did is they destroyed the national central banks. Destroy the national central banks, right? They no longer have national central banks. In Germany, Italy, France, Belgium, many countries, they did not keep their old central banks. They didn't destroy them, and their old currencies were also destroyed with that. So that is, of course, one reality which you have to see together. So that reality is, of course, a realistic manner, of course, of all the congruencies and all, of course, of the situational appellations where we are now, to be, of course, fully involved in all the domains, to implement the DRT ASAP, because we are on the verge of a potential public financial collapse, and public and private as well, right? Because many people are overburdened, the vast majority. So we're going to take, I'm now going to explain it. So we're going to take all the public and the private debt. So my $10,000, your $10,000, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean, we're gonna convert, we're gonna add it all up. Hey, look at that, red, 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 my favorite color. That's a good omen for the DRT, because it takes the old and the new, some old school banking and some new school banking. It is a financial theory which has to be implemented as a mass public private partnership. My brother Scorpio citizen Bill Gates, we have to incorporate BlackRock and Blackstone and RBC and all the banks, public and private, the Federal Reserve. So we're gonna take we're gonna add up all the public private debt of Canada. We're gonna convert it into US dollars with all the money that exists in circulation. We're gonna add all the public and the private debt. Oh yeah, nice. Thank you so much. Oh, I love this. This I'm gonna eat when I get back home. It's like my brain is gonna. Maybe I'm gonna retrieve my memory past before 2014, January, February, winter 2014. Maybe not. Maybe I'll never come back. I don't know. Just saying like that. It's gonna eat brains. My own brains. So, but what's more important is all my work done over the years and the DRT now. So the debt refusion theory, we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, right? All of it, we're gonna add it all up. All that debt, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. We're gonna add it with the US dollar, right? We're gonna add it together. That money is gonna be the initial money supply for a new central bank. We're gonna create a new currency called the UE, or the Imperial dollar. We're gonna create the Imperial Central Bank. We're gonna create the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot unit, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE, the UE, the UE, the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE, the UE, the UE, the UE, U dot universal, E dot exchange, U dot UE. The universal exchange unit is gonna have the value of the US dollar. Is gonna have the value of the US dollar. Is gonna have the value of the US dollars. So with that money, we're gonna get rid of the border. We're gonna get rid of the border. Of course, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get rid of the border. There won't be any more border thereafter. So we're gonna get rid of that border, right? We're gonna finish with the border, and of course, we're gonna create this new currency. Of course, new currencies which we're gonna create is, of course, the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. So we're gonna create the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. All that money is gonna be the initial money supply. for a new central bank. So all the public and the private debt. And this is going to be the new currencies which you're going to be creating. The UE. Hey, look at that. So with that money, this money, we're going to do, of course, a lot of things together. We're going to get rid of the border. We're going to fuse the FBI and the RCMP. We're going to, of course, mass finance the building of the FOR, the Imperial People's Coliseum, and of course we're going to build it on the Canadian-US border, of course, to be, of course, for the greatest ever built super massive structure for me and Donald Trump to inaugurate it in the boxing match. And of course that is something which we're going to be having to do. And of course that appellation and that dictum is of course something which we're going to get it on that to do. And then Forgotten Goddess Temple, we're going to build it as well. Hey, look at it. Somebody put some color on that. The Forgotten Goddess Temple. So that's what we're going to build together. And of course all these together, that is what we're gonna do it together. So we're gonna create a massive public-private partnership, and of course we're gonna be on that dominion. So of course that public-private partnership is of course something which we have of course to incorporate together in all the domains where we are now. So that is the reality of what we're gonna do. Right, it's gonna put us in a new world order and gonna incorporate, build the 4 buildings. We're gonna build massive structures for defense. We're gonna get into global dome, Hawk Dome. We're gonna put a Hawk in the global dome, and of course we're going to also build the 44 tunnels in case of a thermonuclear war. We're gonna build these tunnels in case of a massive thermonuclear war, and these tunnels are gonna serve massive 44 underground city tunnels in case of a thermonuclear across the North American Collectif, across Canada, United States. We're gonna get rid of the border, and we're gonna set up the Imperial Tourism Ministry, and every season when it's spring equinox solstice, summer equinox solstice, autumn equinox solstice, and of course spring, autumn, winter equinox solstice, spring, autumn, whatever the case is, right? Every 4 times a year, we're gonna have 4 seasons. It's gonna be 4. So that's what it's gonna be, 4 times a year. 4 times. We're gonna credit 4 days. 4 days. That's what we're gonna credit. Hill Park. So 4 days every summer, every spring, every season, we're gonna credit 4 different days. So that's gonna be seasonal for all citizens of the empire coming of the Imperial Republic. We're gonna credit, of course, 4 days. And those 4 days are gonna be for all regardless of XYZ factors. Those 4 days are gonna rejuvenate us. 4 days every 3 months, every spring, every summer, every winter, every autumn. All citizens are gonna be credited 4 days in order to, hey look, that's dangerous, with travel expenses. But every time you cross a second past midnight, if you cross a second past midnight, that means that you lose a day, right? So you lose a day. It's 4 nights basically, where food, lodging and transport, where food, lodging and transport is accorded, so food, lodging and transport is accorded. So because we have food, lodging, transport, and don't expect caviar but food, we're going to be providing that, and this is going to establish the strongest with a car between all of us, and fundamentally it's going to propel us in a new bilateral new world order where we're going to have total BDD in relation to the world and create fuse Canada, United States, also finance massive healthcare projects and massive rehabilitation of the population, So the population is going to be a mass rehabilitation of the population of the North American Collective. We're going to mass finance fitness as well, fitness programs. So this DRT and the creation of the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit, aka the Imperial Dollar, will actually strengthen us on all sides, both the public and the private. And this is what I was looking for. Although I think you can go by that way, but let's go by here. This is the stairs here. I like to take these stairs during autumn for some reason. Sometimes you see me coming by the other side and going to the mountain by going on that side there. They're kind of narrow, but they're fun. Just gotta hold on tight. So the DRT debt refusion treaty, for the creation of the UE Universal Exchange Unit is going to launch us in this new Imperial Democratic Republic. We're gonna find the new constitution. We're gonna merge. We're gonna get rid of we're gonna create a Democratic Republic. We're gonna fuse the 10, the 50, and the 3, the 63. But the Canadian Republic and the Perpetual Imperial Democratic Republican Union of the 63. We're going to finance food, housing, shelter, housing, and of course integrated with the security establishment by fusing the RCMP and the FBI and the other police forces. We're going to create the Imperial Police Force, Security Force Service, Imperial Police Service, Imperial Police Service for total integration, but with the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory, and we're going to mass finance the rehabilitation of the population. Also, my brothers and sisters, of course, we're going to give some amnesty. We're going to do the census, see who's been living in Canada, United States for the past 7 years, 9 years, 5 years, 11 years, and if you're not convicted of 44 criminal convictions in the past 11 years, we're going to give some amnesty. So we're going to provide, of course, some amnesty thereof, and that amnesty, of course, is going to be conducive to, of course, all the appellative manners, where we're going to have, of course, the appellations to be conclusive where we are now, in all the domains where we live now, situationally, and in the awareness of where we have to be now. So all that is to be saying, of course, that we have to do this great census, and we're going to establish this great census, great finance tourism for the youth. 4 days every 4 seasons. Once they're 16 and plus, you automatically get those. You can use the 4, or you can accumulate up to 44. You use them or lose them, or you can take twice a year, 8 days or 16 days a year. And anywhere from Quebec, Yukon, California, we're gonna fuse the 10 provinces with the 50 states and the 3 territories. 63, not 51. 50-50 Democratic